Yes. Once again, welcome. Hit subscribe button, like, and notification bell. This is just truly Michael Kimathi of Everyone MK, representing Impact Masters Podcast in collaboration with Africa's Talking Podcasts, coming live to you this beautiful day, the day of the Lord. As we bring you tech movers and shakers, today we are covering Africa Tech Next Ecosystem, talking about rockets, rocket science. We have a rocket scientist in the house. Guys, do you know about Jamaica? Today we're going to talk about that. We have two musketeers in the house. All of them from Jamaica. One of them is a host and the other one is our guests. But they're all fun to be around, doing amazing stuff. But nevertheless, we're covering tech movers and shakers across Africa, highlighting their stories and telling their stories the way they're supposed to be, raw. So beyond tech ecosystem, we are looking on two ladies actually. Of course, one is a host. I don't know when she should be the guest actually. Thinking of it, she should be the guest at some point. It's a beautiful day of the Lord, here in Nairobi City, country known as Kenya. Thank you so much. If you're enjoying our content so far, please comment, subscribe, show some love. It's all about Africans. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Junn Hope, our guest today, and Sylvia. Sylvia, please talk about yourself a bit before we go to Junn.
All right. Hello. My name is Sylvia Jebet, and I'm part of the Africa's Talking team in the developer relations. And I am glad to be here, glad to be speaking to Junn today to hear more about what she's done and just hear more about her journey in the ecosystem so far.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. I appreciate. My name is Junn, as you have heard. I'm a student at JKUAT pursuing Telecommunication Engineering in my final year. That's just like the basics of who I am. And I also build rockets for fun.
Hey. Guys, did you hear that? For fun? Who does that? in which continent? But by the way, on a serious note, this is really amazing, if not fascinating, because if we are doing that for fun in Africa, I'm so hopeful where we are. But before we go to rockets, because it's kind of exciting and as well challenging for those who have not. Where did all this start, Junn? Like, where did Junn start?
Where did Junn start?
Yeah, take us all the way back.
All right. Let's see where paths have crossed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my interest in engineering as a start started back when I was, I think, 8 years old.
Mm-hmm. Class 2 or grade 2? Are you CPC, kindergarten, group of schools?
Wow.
Grade, eh?
Class 2
Okay.
or thereabout. So I remember one time there was like a TV failure at home. And Junn Hope decides, what a time to open this television set.
At 8 years?
At 8 years, I have no idea how to open a television set.
Yeah.
I have no idea how screwdrivers work. So I take a knife because that's the best alternative. We don't even have screwdrivers in the house in the first place.
Yeah.
So I try open it up. I end up breaking the casing. Remember the CRT TVs used to have like very heavy plastic casings. So I ended up breaking the plastic casing.
So CRT are the TVs with a big stomach.
Yes, with the stomach.
Just for those who are like CRT,
CRT, the ones with the big behind. So I ended up breaking it. I ended up being beaten. So I think, yes, I proper whooping. But I think that was just like the beginning of it. Fast forward to now class 8.
No. Don't move that fast. So, where are you
All
born?
right.
June? Where
Sorry,
were you
sorry.
born? Where are you born?
Where was
Where are
I
you running?
born? Where am I running? Where was I born? I was born in Thika.
Thika?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Born and bred.
Thika.
Yes.
Thika town or Thika's environments?
Thika town for majority of the time, but now we live around the environs, but I'm a Thika baby.
Oh. Okay.
Mananasi town.
Oh, Makongeni, which place exactly?
Landless, just past Landless. For those people who know, along Garissa Highway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how was it growing in Thika? Like how is it in that landless place?
Do I really have a reference? I think when you ask someone that, there's always like a reference that we can like compare to. So it was.
Oh, you have. Yeah, I totally hear you. So you have been born in Thika, grew in Thika, went to school in Thika, but at some point you were in Limuru, right?
Yes, for high school.
Yeah.
For high school, I was in Limuru. Very cold place, but amazing school nonetheless. So yeah, I think that's basically been my upbringing. I've been within the Nairobi environs or Kiambu for majority of my life, because now being in university at JKUAT and almost like circumnavigating. Yeah.
So you are saying you did all your primary school in Thika, right?
Yes.
So how was that like? Were you a troublesome kid after breaking CRT? In school, were you beating other kids trying to open their mandula?
Can I say I was a violent child? Not really. Not particularly. Not particularly.
But neither were you good.
I don't think I can say I'm a calm person or if you bring war, I never start war. I never start war. But if you bring it, I will finish it.
Okay.
That's one thing.
Okay. That's a nice way, diplomatic way of like saying.
Yes, a very diplomatic way of looking at it.
Have you ever gotten trouble in primary school? I mean, in trouble?
No, not that I can. No. But one time I almost did, but I did not. So, see, here I am.
So you were just
Civilized person of there.
mischievous at home, just breaking things at home, but in school you're calm. Yeah, you're two-sided.
Actually, there are actually very many people who actually would think that I'm a very calm person, very collected, very... Until you like meet me and then you see I'm always tinkering things and I'm always trying to break things and just open things. Just
But it's out of
for the fun.
curiosity.
Yeah, just curiosity. If something, unfortunately, something is new and I don't know how it works and I can't Google it.
But when you broke the TV, were you really clear that I want to be an engineer, or even you didn't know what that leads to?
I didn't actually know. I didn't even think of it, anything. I always wanted to be a lawyer. Actually, people who knew me from high school going back always knew I wanted to do law. So I didn't really think about the implication of how the small things I was doing was building up to now where I am right now. Until after high school, that's when I was like, I might be good at breaking stuff. I could make money or make a career out of breaking stuff and tinkering around with things. But it had not really come to me that it's something that...
Why law?
I have an aunt who's a lawyer.
Oh, your aunt is
I have an aunt who's a lawyer and she was very flamboyant, very... So I was just like, I wanted to be like Auntie Son. So just for that. And then the 2017 elections happened. And I remember Orengo. Was it Orengo?
Yes.
Came out with this. It was like a 600-page thing full of evidence. And I'm like, I'm the one who's going to be doing that. No, count me out. Count me out. Count me out, yeah.
So that's when you gave up on law?
I actually don't think I gave up per se. But I think towards finishing high school is when like reality started kicking in that law might be something I've wanted to do for such a long time, but not intrinsically what I want to do, but because of factors around me that have encouraged me to do law.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, and I was very grateful for my mom and my family. They gave me the support to tinker around, to figure out things. There was no, you should do this. It was just, you want to do music, it's fine. Go do it if you want it. So I think that also gave me the room to find my way.
Yeah. And Junn, by the way, of course, for engineers, mathematics is like the core. How was mathematics growing up especially in primary school. In primary, it's not that difficult, it's not that much, but of course, you have to have some sense of liking and loving it and fascinated at the same time to be able to be interested beyond 1 + 1 or minus subtracting and adding kind of calculations. So, how was that journey for you to really love mathematics?
I think, if I'm being honest, I have been lucky. I can say it that way. Math was not that hard for me, at least in primary school.
You have to be clear about primary school.
I have said primary school. So I don't think it actually took much for me. If anything, I genuinely don't think I put in a lot of effort in primary school.
Were you playful or were you doing other things? Like drama?
I was in music festival at one point. For, I think, a semester or something of the sort.
In primary school?
Yeah.
Primary school, they have semesters?
Like a term.
Oh, a term. Okay.
Oh, God.
I was like, which primary school?
He's looking at me and I'm like wondering, what have I said wrong?
Nowadays, I'm not... nowadays with the CBC, I'm not so sure. And homeschooling,
True.
I'm not so sure what... And actually, the other day, there's a day I gave a joke about the Ocampo. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ocampo.
Ocampo 6.
Yeah, like...
Ocampo the person.
Yeah, this was the joke. So it was in a hackathon and I was like, umeponea, those who understand Kiswahili. So there was this team which was late to present and everyone wanted them to present for some reason. So I said, umeponea basha ya Ocampo. And there was this silence. No one got the joke. And I realized, by the way, I'm dealing with people who maybe are born 2097. And maybe by the time Ocampo was happening, they were too young to really be in the know.
Let me ask, did the people get the joke or was the joke not funny?
Good question. But I think...
She was there anyway, so...
I think people had the joke. And it's true, a majority of the demographic was a younger one. And we were quite young when... But we remember, we have an idea. We had
I mean, like, with that joke, you have to know, really, when you're in that Ocampo 6, like, your name was mentioned. It was not a joke. Because that means you go to ICC and all that. So, of course, that's why now I cannot assume anything that someone says. If someone says semester, I have to be clear. Maybe nowadays people learn in semester. I know there are schools that actually, primary school, that people go like per semester. And when there is summer holiday, they go for summer holiday, like the international curriculum.
True.
So I can't actually assume.
For sure.
You say semester by mistake. I have to be sure. And of course, here we keep it raw. So feel free to explain where I need be. Yeah.
By semester, I think it's because I'm currently in the semester program.
Totally
so I think it's just like,
So, sciences was good, or you didn't also struggle? It's like, you guys can bring some headaches,
I think it's important to note, I really struggled with science particularly. And afterwards, in high school, biology. I
You didn't understand biology?
I remember. So I think in Form 1.
But you're taking us so fast, June. I want us to
sorry.
go
So in primary school, I'm sorry, in primary school, sciences were not so bad, but there were some aspects that were not so interesting to me. So things like plants, the human body, it was like, wasting my time. I didn't like it. I really didn't like, there's just like some sections. So the sections I didn't like, there are others that I really loved. The physics aspect of it. Making work easier. I'm like, yes, please, make use of me. I need to make work easier.
You need to go to the lab.
Yeah.
Were you remaining in the lab, especially in high school after physics lab session? No?
Lab sessions. That's a tricky one because we had compulsory lab sessions in Form 4 for all of us. So there was really no alternative to not go to the lab. I think I was a physics baby. I think I was a physics cat. It was like a teacher's pet.
Oh, yeah?
At some point.
You really got it like end to end.
Please, I think I'm making it a little bit too simplistic. I'm making it seem like I had it easy. I did not, especially the first 2 years of high school. But sciences were not that tough, especially after I dropped biology.
Oh, okay. So let me go a bit deep. So you are in primary school. That's still in Thika, right?
Yeah,
Which
sure.
one is it?
Thika Primers.
And for you, is just having fun. So did you have fun with your KCP? You know what I'm asking.
I did not have fun with my KCP.
But you passed.
Yes.
Really well.
I went to a good school, so yeah.
It's telling.
It wasn't bad. Yeah.
It was really good. Not bad. It was good.
It was good.
You don't want to say, right?
I want to seem humble to the people at home, to the people watching.
It doesn't break a bone to tell a girl who is in the same school that you're in. You said it's
Thika Primers.
Thika Primary. That it's possible to get this kind of marks.
Yeah.
Because I don't love exams. I don't like that people are judged based on just exams.
Oh, yeah.
One exam.
True.
But also, it is what it is. So,
True.
so if you don't get certain marks,
Absolutely.
it tells something about the next level, right?
Yeah.
So when we do this podcast, we like to keep it really real.
Yeah.
That okay, I got this, and that's what took me to this.
Yeah.
So that if I'm in Thika Primary, I know for sure, for me to become a rocket scientist, it has to start really early.
From really
Not
early.
only loving things and breaking things, but also translate to like if I'm tested about things,
Yeah.
I'm able to prove that I understand these things.
Yeah,
Yes.
makes sense.
I think that's the approach.
All right.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, it might encourage someone.
Okay. I got 125.
And that's what you're saying, eh?
Hey, not bad.
It was not
bad.
bad.
That's Alliance marks. But
no, it was
anyway,
not actually.
where
It
you
was
went
not.
to is the same as Alliance. So, thank you for sharing. So, when you got this, were you expecting it, or did the track record show that, hey, this is it? Like, it's going to happen.
I was actually disappointed. I knew I'd get that reaction. I wanted greater marks.
Like 499.
No, I was not that ambitious, but just I knew the cutoff point because I really wanted to go to Alliance, and I knew what Alliance cutoff point was, and I fell short of it by I think a mark.
Oh, so 430 and above is what?
It was 427 at the time, I think.
But you got
from the previous year.
25. Okay.
Yeah, so it was disappointing. I was just like, I can't actually.
So Alliance was like your goal.
It was. It was.
Yeah. So we went to. What's the name of the school?
Loreto
Limuru. How was that day one? Like wewe pale with your,
All the new things, new box, new uniform.
Yeah.
I don't know if girls used to call their new shirts maziwa, but when we went to our school, our shirts were referred as maziwa.
Wow,
Do you know why?
still-
Because they're too white.
Are they still
And you lose them the first week. So like when Form 2, Form 3, they look at, the new, what do they call it? There's a term they use nowadays when you say Nisisi Tuko. When you open the camera clothes, the mtumba clothes, right? Bail, the new bail has arrived. So monos, which we used to be called, I don't know if you guys had that. And I've realized over time I should not assume this thing because I realized when there are places people don't even know what monolization is. Whereas where I went to school, they're like, that was like rite of passage. And then, of course, new bail has arrived first week.
Yeah.
You lose all your new stuff,
Yeah.
especially shirts and pullovers. And there are people actually who come and say, you know what, there's a funky happening. You guys used to go to funky.
Yeah.
There's a funky happening somewhere. Can I borrow your shirt? You look the same size. And then when you go to ask for the shirt back, you might even get a beating or something. It's like that never happened.
Never seen you.
So it's like silent.
brutal.
And when I look at the world out here nowadays, I realize also these people are in the society. They steal from you right
Yeah.
on your eyes and you can't do anything.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know why I've gone that deep, but ideally, when I think about it, some of the things that actually happen in the society, they do not start from when people graduate or when people finish
for sure.
school.
Yeah.
Something that actually has a pattern over time. So, day one,
How was it?
you're in Loreto, Limuru.
day one, I'm in my bright red skirt, bright red sweater, because you could literally see us from afar.
Yeah.
I remember I got disappointed.
Yeah.
What happened? We went to Limuru High School first. We passed by Limuru High School first. Limuru Girls, rather. Then went to Loreto.
So there's a Limuru and Loreto.
Yeah. There's Limuru, which is not too far from Loreto. So I went to Limuru first. And the school is very... What's the name for this word? It has an ambience. It's like very aesthetically pleasing, you know? And...
Please, I know you are good in composition. Can you please paint that picture for us? For those who have never seen a school close to tea plantation.
All right.
Because when I go to Kericho, when I'm going to Kisumu, when I get to Kericho, I feel like, should I spend a day? Because it's really green. I assume most of the air is fresh. And coming from Nairobi, coming from Thika going to Limuru also is the same experience. Yeah. It's really like, it's refreshing. I feel like, nimefika. Go ahead.
All right. So, as I was saying. So, again, as you're saying, there was like it's very lush, very green, very beautiful. Yeah. And then I think, if I'm not wrong, it's on a hill.
Yeah.
So you can see, or rather towards a hill, so you can see a lot of greenery around it. And not just the greenery, but even the outline of the school. It's not... I would later come to see chaos in the next school. So this one was very peaceful. It seemed systematic. Or it probably is, I don't know. So yeah, I think that was what drew me to it, you know. From the entry, there's just this, it's like a driveway. You're literally driving towards the school and the like. Then we go to the next school.
Which one is that?
Limuru. Limuru now.
They're just neighboring?
Yeah,
or?
They're not too far from each other. We were dropping something at Limuru Girls and then going to Loreto. So from where I was coming from, it was easier to go to Limuru Girls first, then go to Loreto.
Yeah. You had a person there? Or?
Yeah, we did. I think it was a cousin of mine.
Yeah.
There's some packages the mother had sent through my mom. So let's just drop it there.
Yeah.
So we get there, I see that, then we leave for school, and you get to Loreto and it's just chaos. Again, I think it was because it was reporting day.
What was the chaos about?
There were so many people. I understand that I'd come from a private school. I'd come from a very secluded area or reporting. We didn't have anything like reporting days because I had not gone to boarding school.
Yeah.
So it was just very me, myself, and the very small number of people. So now you're meeting throngs of people. You're
from
meeting
all
so
over
many
the
people.
country.
And I'm just like, what are all these people doing here?
Yeah.
What's going on? It was like a lot of chaos. There's a lot of chaos.
Yeah, but I thought you loved the chaos to some extent.
I do to some extent, but I don't think I had prepared myself. I'd been prepared psychologically, or I'd prepared myself psychologically for all the people I saw, or like the whole experience. And then the reality of, oh shoot, I'm actually going to be left here. My mom is going to go. You trust me to keep myself alive through this? Wow. I don't trust me. So and it was that, I think the first few weeks were just crying days. I remember I went to the dining room, to the dining hall, and there was ugali that was being served for supper that night. And the ugali wasn't, again, it's a public school. So you're really not expecting the best kind of facilities or anything. Not to say that they did not have good facilities, just you know. So I remember I was cooked for ugali and you could literally see the flour. I did not eat that night. I did not eat that
I thought
night.
they said that's the well-prepared ugali.
Oh. This was your first night?
This is my first night. Thank God for snacks.
Okay. So you guys had enough snacks to survive?
Oh yeah, we did. We had comfort food.
Okay.
You can't be living in a cold place without being comforted. There has to be some reparations for it.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So day two, were there like godfathers, godmothers assigned to you to just show you around, like, you know, what do they call it in the working world? Work buddy. It's also in the working. But apparently, even in the job places, there is work buddy who
Someone to work
shows
with you.
When you go to conferences, there is conference buddy. Show you around.
Yeah.
So did you have?
It was actually a school mom.
School mom. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you have one?
I did. She was very, very helpful. She actually really held me through, especially the first year. She did. So I remember that she actually met me on the first day. She came, she helped me carry things from wherever. Okay, it was tradition. So when you're in Form 2, you'd help your kids settle. So she helped me carry things. She had me settle down. My mom left. She actually was the one who unpacked my things. I was crying. So I'm seated on someone else's bed. I'm like,
oh, okay.
Tengeneza hapo.
Allah. This is what demands, eh?
So she was very, very helpful. She was very, very insightful. She was very, very amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So day one in class, and now you have to. Did your teachers dictate notes, or was it written on the board?
Did they even give us notes in the first? No, I think they used to give notes to us as assignments. It's just
Okay. Go and write them.
Yeah, I don't think we ever had, especially, do I remember? I don't think we had specifically dictated notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're making it sound like it was the 1990s or 80s. But it's just the other day.
It's just
actually.
the other day.
Yeah.
It's literally less than 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You have a very good memory. So, so the reason why I've asked this is because I think education is changing actually.
Yeah.
Like they're doing an overhaul. And I feel like as much as we're doing the overhaul, we should actually not retain some of the things because they help so much later in life. Like dictation, when people dictate to you, you are able to comprehend very fast. As you take notes, you're able to comprehend what is going on. Because even in university, that's what happens mostly.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming where people have to do most of the things practically and there's no that session. But I don't know how CBC is like. Maybe with time we'll get to know how it is like. Is that you find some of those things can help you in different ways in life. But I'm not saying all together that CBC is bad or something.
Yeah.
It's just that I'm thinking about it now and I'm like, if maybe people can't write things when someone is speaking, then there might be a gap because you have to either comprehend when they're speaking and maybe take note later or deduce something out of that or you don't get it. Which means if you don't get it, then you miss out. Yeah, and so many things can happen out of that. So you go to class. There are like how many subjects? 7, 8?
No, we had 13.
13, including French and German.
We did not have German. I didn't do French.
But there was French.
Yeah, there was
French, Spanish.
There was just French as a foreign language, and music, art, home science, agriculture.
Yeah.
Another one I forget. I cannot remember.
Yeah.
And computer.
Yeah, computer.
And business.
Yeah, those are the options.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you take computer?
Yeah, I did.
Did you code?
No, I did macros.
Setting up macros.
I set up
That's
macros.
the closest you.
That was
at
the
that
closest
point
I ever got. Exactly.
And how did you find it?
I did not like macros, but I liked especially in Form 4, because I remember that's when we used to do projects. Yeah.
You guys were at the same school?
No.
Oh, okay.
What school were you in?
I was in my girls' elders.
Really? Interesting.
But it sounds like they offer the same faculty.
Yeah, it is for sure.
Okay.
So I think during project is actually when we got to really put like the rubber met the road then, because most of it previously had been theoretical, some bit of Word here, Excel, So now having to build your own project from scratch and thinking about how you want your views to look like, how you want your interaction, or what we now know as to be UI UX to look like.
Yeah.
And how you want for it to interact, or the kind of processing and the kind of thought process you're putting behind it. I really liked that process. I really, really did.
Yeah.
I didn't like having to use macros. There were actually people who used to use JavaScript. I know.
In high school?
Yes.
I know one of really good software engineer. Right now she moved to US. They own a small jet. Not jet per se. 5Ys.
Okay.
You are in rockets.
I have no idea.
The small planes.
Okay.
But they move a lot, like from US to Bahamas. I don't know if you know her, Anna Masila. She also went to Limuru. So she was really good in Ruby. When I met her, she, I think, either completed high school or she was in the university. I'm not so sure. But she joined Andela, and then everything else happened. So when you say people are doing JavaScript, then for sure, I agree with you. There are some guys who are...
I know, and I feel like it really defined and it really created this difference, especially now when you come to university. But I know this is now jumping the gun. There were people who had already had a head start.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I remember there's someone in my class who used JavaScript, and I'm like, I struggled with macros. You were using JavaScript. Okay. I didn't even know that was an option. Exactly. I didn't even know that was an option. So, yeah.
There are people actually, you should not assume things. There are people who also have instructors at home.
For sure.
Like maybe your dad says, okay, here is a guy I'll be paying maybe for the next 3 months over the holiday.
Yeah.
By the way, this is when I actually need to give a disclaimer for those who are listening. So if you are on holiday, like most of you are, and you're returning in September, don't think everyone is just chilling and watching Netflix as you do. There are people who actually right now are taking courses in Java, JavaScript, music, piano, guitar, and everything else. Python, yes, as you said. People are participating actively in hackathons,
for sure.
building stuff, meeting people, networking. So not everyone who is waiting to get a degree now to start looking for a job. People are really out here doing amazing, and I've seen them in the hackathon. And people are doing some amazing stuff.
Exactly.
So I'll tell everyone across the country, across the continent, wherever it is. I know most people go to school, go for holidays. Maybe even you're not lucky to go to high school. Don't give up. There are some colleges you can do packages. Then you understand how, to type in a computer. There are so many videos online. There's documentation nowadays. Most of the books, actually, computer programming books, are available on PDF online. So it's a matter of your interest and also being out there. At the end of the day, there's nothing wrong that can go when you're out there. And now that comes back to me. So my first computer, I was in first year. When I just showed up, it was like desktop. University there's only desktop. But my first computer was in second year, second semester.
Yeah.
We just had 2 semesters per year. And that's when I got to own a small Acer. Maybe you guys know how small Acer looks like. Yeah, and that Acer actually was destroyed by so many guys because I used to charge it. It didn't keep the charge long. It was like when it's full, like 1.5 hours. When I'm like
busy
in the thick of it.
When it's doing the work, running partition Linux, maybe 1 hour max. So I used to keep it in charging, and in school normally there are no extensions that are really. But I know, of course, I use Strathmore. They have figured out that you don't need to have socket on the walls. So people used to pass with that wire, and then my computer used to fly.
Wow. Oh no.
After 1 year, it just died on me. Literally died. Like nothing could be done. I went to the fundi. They were like, do you want to sell the screen? Can you imagine?
That's
everything
the
else
best
is dead.
alternative he's giving you.
I can give you 2 Gs. Because here, alternatively, replacing the motherboard is like buying another
one, for sure.
And that time, that's when I actually started thinking deeply about me as a computer scientist. I did computer science.
Yeah.
What is the most important investment in my life? And I think this is a question I would pose to anyone who is doing anything. And I realized the most important investment in my life is the tool that I use every day. And that's why, for me, my computers is like, it's better be the best that there is in the market, because that's my tool. When I see people play around with what they use every day, I'm like, are you serious? Like, this is what you use like every single day. I would rather not have a TV or anything fancy. I might be sleeping on the floor, but what I'm using, the tool that I'm using, it's better be really working. Because from that experience, I realized if this tool dies, And I have a project as an entrepreneur because actually I did entrepreneurship for a long time. Then, of course,
Everything comes
I'm
to a
done.
standstill.
And Nairobi has a way of telling you, see ya.
Yeah.
Very easy. And our home is not Thika, so returning might not be the easiest.
Might not be the easiest option.
Yes. So that, sorry, sometimes I give my story to just give the context.
Please do.
But of course, Limuru, I don't want to call it girls, but Limuru, Loreto, girls Limuru, right? That's the right one. So I've seen a couple of guys come from there who are really good with the. And I wanted to know, do you guys also learn programming in school, in high school?
In high school.
Or you have to self-teach yourself?
Unless they started now, we didn't have that.
Of course, the person I'm talking about is older than you, so there's no
exactly,
way
so there
they
was
could
no
have
way.
started. Yeah. So you said you didn't like biology. So of course that means being a doctor was not that
Out of the picture.
For a very long time.
and this is interesting because I realized that also biology makes girls understand themselves more to some extent.
Okay.
Because for us in those classes we are so uncomfortable because we're hearing things that we don't want to hear.
Oh yeah, makes
But
sense.
ladies are like, now this makes sense.
Now they have questions.
You see, and especially for men or boys or gentlemen in school, especially when that subject is taught by a lady, it's not the easiest because for a lady there are things that she'll be saying and she doesn't want to joke around so that you don't take it lightly.
Yeah, for sure.
But when it's a man, sometimes you're like, tell us more, and it becomes interesting. So the question here for me is it's very interesting to hear. The first lady I've had biology was not to me. And by the way, you're very maybe it might be the first 10 minutes. You're like, in high school biology. So please tell us more. Why was it not that fascinating?
I think it's okay, first and foremost, for things not to work out
True,
from the first, you know.
You have spoken like an engineer.
So I remember, I think the first few classes, I remember we had this class where we were being taught about mitochondria, the likes. And that just went above my head. I could not for the life of me understand why it had a different, and it was such a small thing, but I just didn't understand why it had a different pronunciation in plural. And I think, I don't know, I have a feeling I had an attitude with my teacher, my biology teacher in Form 1.
Was he a man or?
A lady, it was a lady. I had an attitude with her. So I remember there's a time, I can't remember what we were supposed to be doing at the lab, and I'm a very sensitive person to touch.
Yeah.
I'm very, very sensitive with touch. So anything small that touches me, I want to wash my hands. I don't even like this. You see the way you're cooking and you're having things on your hand, I don't like that. Exactly, I keep on washing. So I remember at the lab we were doing something and iodine had spilled on me. So I decided, let me just go wash my hand. And she made a very interesting comment. She was like, nyinyi watu wa kuoshaosha mikono. I was like, okay.
Nimefikiwa.
Say less. Say less. I was busy minding my business. And just something very, very small. And I actually think about it sometimes and I'm just like, it wasn't anything major. But at the time, 15-year-old me, it was a big thing. She felt it. So I think just became a compounded problem for me. So I carried on the attitude from first year, from Form 1 rather, till Form 2. And I remember just when we were going to drop the subjects is when I started liking it.
What made you like it?
We had this class, something to do with blood groups or something.
Yeah.
I found it very interesting about stress as positive and stress as negative and the likes. I found it very, very interesting. And we were going to drop the subject the next week. So I sat down with myself and I'm like, I liked this lesson.
And was it the same teacher all the way?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't the same teacher.
Then that's very interesting.
It was.
So what was the problem with the second teacher?
The second teacher was actually okay.
Yeah.
So,
but already
I had already clocked out. I clocked out. I keep on saying I clocked out in Form 1. I just clocked out of biology class. There's no saving me. There really was no saving me. So I found it interesting, but I remember sitting down with myself and asking, I'm just saying, this was one class out of X that I've had previously. I've not liked the other classes. Having liked this one class is not a guarantee that I like all the rest. Because I remember we had a fight, if I can so call it like that, with my mom. Because she wants me to do biology. Because we had a trend of doing 3 sciences. You remember the 3 sciences girls? Yes, the 3 sciences girls.
Oh, those were not like a class.
So it was a whole cloud. It was like a whole...
There's just some power that comes with you.
Oh, yeah? Oh.
It was...
Some of our schools.
Oh, okay, I did 3 sciences, but it's okay.
Did you do 3 sciences?
Yes, I did.
You see?
Huh?
Say like, need I say more? Need I say more?
Yeah, being calm.
She has said it.
Say it.
Doing
To
3
the whole-
sciences.
to the whole
like nothing is
class.
happening.
It was called what?
And passing all of them.
It was.
Not just passing, really passing.
Okay.
If you say something, it's your words, not mine.
So yeah, I didn't like it, but I think, and something I learned from an early age. Early is relative, but from then, it's being okay with the choices you've made and being okay with trying something and not liking it, and saying, you know what, it's fine, it's okay. We're not going to be all engineers or all doctors or all X's, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And living and being okay with that choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at this particular point, you had made your mind like chemistry, physics, math. These one look alike. There is a lot of correlation.
Yeah.
And they make a lot of sense.
They do.
Mathematically, mostly. So you are kind of a logical person.
More or less, yes.
Yeah?
Actually, yes.
Yeah. And by the way, you have said a very important thing that I think anyone in high school, primary should actually grab if is a lady. That sometimes ladies know that they're not good in science. And we've had these debates, STEM specifically, science. It's science what? Science,
Technology, engineering, and math.
but basically scientific stuff and math. It's some of the things that actually have pointed out directly that this one attitude started like, this is it, like, I'm trying to be me here and I'm not allowed to be me. And I've seen that with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And even when I was doing math, I went to like 2 schools. The first school, the teacher was an examiner, and for you to be an examiner, you're really good at what you do.
Sure.
But he never took us serious because the school I was in the first time.
Please say the name. Kindly. Worry not. No shame here.
It's not a school that you know or you'll never know. But it's not a shame or anything, but they don't deserve my credits.
Oh, okay.
They don't. So this
Does
school,
the second one do?
This school was apparently a provincial school. But it was not provincial in actuality.
Yeah.
Like on ground, it wasn't. Because one, they took like 5-10 students who performed provincial level. And then the rest were like, this is a son of DO because he's a neighbor or son of a chief, just put them there. People with D's, E's, So even as a teacher, you're demotivated. But because it was a board of governors kind of run school where sometimes even some of the teachers are paid by the board of governors, then of course you have to play ball because, we own this school. Otherwise, you are the visitor. You need to treat us well. But of course, as a result, someone even ends up like, treating you not so serious.
Yeah.
So there, if you didn't really work hard, nothing happened. Actually, you did not even expect anything to happen. And when you say that some of this aspect of teacher-student relation actually makes people give up, I also see it in when we do hackathons and stuff like that, whereby someone comes with some entitlement.
Yeah.
Straight up, like, I'm expecting this.
Yeah.
But also, again, someone comes and they have that trauma of like, what if I ask a question? If I wash my hands, how will I be treated? And I think we need to move away from that because as Africans, we have been traumatized for long. That's why actually we're doing these podcasts. That's one of the idea to just address some of the things that actually limit us, that are beyond us. And one of those things is a trauma. And trauma actually can address in different ways. One is that to accept that we are really good.
Yeah.
2 is that we have our own weakness. And 3, letting go, as you say.
Yeah.
Saying that, okay, maybe biology is not me. And me, I'm not biology. Right? And maybe I'm good with physics. Just dig deep and, build rockets. But anyway, the point here is that, especially for girls, is that I feel like if we give them a chance and allow them to be them, we could see an amazing stuff, because I've seen a couple of really good engineers, lady engineers, even at the T, in the community, and they end up actually becoming the best, to say the least. But for those who require special attention, sometimes it doesn't really work out, because, of course, your expectations are not met or something. You feel like, maybe this is not my space. And I've ever had so many people say, hey, I want a safe space. Until today, I always try to understand what is that safe space. Because safe space can mean two things. You're either treated in a special way, but not getting the right content and deal, because science is hard. Let's not lie about it. Science is really hard, and you need really to love it and be curious enough to understand. Or safe space might mean to be you and also to be given a chance to really dig deep. I love the second part, whereby and that will actually you can create yourself. Like once you learn something, you go ahead and investigate about it, build something around it, understand more about it, and so on and so forth. But that's my take, right? So going forward, were you monolized?
Sorry?
Were you monolized?
Was I monolized?
You know what monolized means?
Wow. Yes.
Or bullying. That's what people call. But I don't feel like it should be bullying, because bullying is a whole total different thing.
It is bullying.
Okay. All right.
Subliminal or not, it is bullying.
Okay. Why
Was
you
I monolized?
Yes and no.
Don't
give us that answer.
No.
Please.
It's a tough question. It's a tough question, because the reason why I was monolized was not the traditional reason as to, you're just a Form 1, you're being monolized. I was monolized for something else. And I'm not even sure it's being monolized. By and large, I can say I was bullied subtly for a while. Yeah.
Especially for the first
1.5 semesters, 1.5 terms.
Terms. In Form 1. And how did you deal with that?
How did I deal with that? If I'm being honest, I actually broke down.
Okay.
I became hysterical. I think what I was trying to say is there was the instigator of this, and I had history outside of Lorenzo. Yes. There was history.
It's someone you knew.
Yeah, it's not someone you knew. It's someone whom we shared a connection with. So this history then was brought into high school, right? So I realized, and then the worse it became, I became hysterical. At a point of actually going to therapy and being sent home.
But was that serious?
It was bad. It was bad.
Yeah.
But it was just like an iceberg kind of moment. You know, that a thing that just tips you off, but it's not the reason why. There was underlying problems, but it's not.
It just awakens a lot of problems.
It does. So
and she knew how to use this real good.
I don't even think she knew. I think it was just her being a normal Form 2, deciding to bully me, not knowing that she was opening up a can of worms.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I think it started this whole journey of therapy. But I only did it for a year, I guess, Form 1. Then came back. My mom has been very, very supportive, so she came back and was very loud about it. She was like, there is someone here who is not giving my child rest. And I shall not rest until my child has rest. So we had to sit down and had to find a workaround as to how we would both live in that school. But beyond that, I think it didn't go as far as or as bad as I've had people's stories, because I have had terrible stories. So it wasn't as bad, but bullying is still bullying. Yeah.
But they have a controversial question, and you can answer,
It's okay.
Or you can say, okay, maybe I have no content. Just feel free. I've had, I don't know if it's because of cold or something, but I've had Loreto in Limuru. Sisi kwa Sisi is very, very prominent, to an extent that I saw it in some papers some time back.
You did?
So I can't remember really well, and don't quote me, but Is that an issue there?
References for that one.
Yeah. I have to be sure because at the end of the day,
for
this
sure.
is on public domain.
Yeah,
I would not
yeah.
like to accuse a whole school
Of
or
doing
something that I
something.
can't really recall. But I feel like I saw something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe on social media. I'm not so sure where I saw this, but is that a problem there? Or not a problem? Like,
I was just
I don't
about to
know
ask
to
you.
call it a problem, but it's not even a problem.
It was a thing. Yeah.
Oh, so
Full stop. Period.
were you a victim or?
Oh no, thank God I was not a victim.
Yeah, because I heard also it goes even beyond that to cults, which is very serious. And I think it's about time we start talking about these things
Yeah.
because we cannot sit here and assume these things are not happening, especially in girls
For
and
sure.
boys' schools. Because I also understand as much as we're accepting and embracing them and now even calling them human rights, for God's sake, they also traumatize people beyond. People even commit suicide because what happens to you remains with you. It's something that actually you never even anticipated. You just went to school to learn.
Yeah.
Know all these things happen.
Yeah.
So what do you think we can do? Because some of us here will become parents in
Yeah.
future and you would not wish that to your son or daughter. What do you think we can do about it? Should you allow people to be meeting in funkies more? Would that help?
I don't think beating is a solution.
No, I'm not
an
saying
alternate.
beat.
No.
Okay.
I'm getting there.
Oh.
I don't think beating is an ultimate solution. I was actually hearing if you're in the country, you know there has been a bill to reintroduce sex education within the current curriculum, and people are fighting it.
Yeah.
The church is fighting it.
Yeah.
Islam's are fighting it. The religious community, let me say, put it that way. The religious community is fighting it. But we're not getting any moral as a society. If anything, we're getting even more immoral. So failing to have these discussions, because the thing is, for most of sex talk or like this understanding of who you are with regards to now that is usually left to your teachers, to class 6 biology or your biology class, right? No, never sits you down.
Yeah.
But the thing is, failing to talk about it does not solve the problem. The problem is already within the society.
Yeah.
Failing to talk about it it won't magically go away. And I think we have a tendency as especially Africans to sweep things under the rug and magically while them away and wait for them to one day disappear.
God will help us.
And God will help us. But I feel like it's very, very important to have these discussions from not just high school, but from an early
Even
age.
parents should actually rise to the occasion.
From
to some
home.
extent. Yeah.
It should start from home and then transition on to school. And we should not be afraid to have these discussions. I was listening to someone talking about how if you have a child who's on TikTok and past 9 p.m., it's just chaos,
Crazy, yeah.
right?
Is it true that?
I actually it was uninstalled TikTok.
Yeah.
I got to a point where I was just like, I'm just wasting my time here. Exactly. It's an addiction I don't want to bear.
Yeah.
But if what people are saying is true, then you're imagining that this kid is being introduced to so much, and even the music we're listening to, even the movies we're watching, we're not becoming,
Especially the movies.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
And the thing is, we're not becoming any moral. We're not becoming any better as a society. We'll always be degrading from time immemorial. We'll always become worse to the next generation. So parents talk about it.
Everyone should be able to
We should
address
be
it.
having these discussions.
Yeah, and I feel like we should talk about it from the point of truth and not imposing what you believe into someone else. And it should be okay to say that I don't want to have that discussion if that is available. But of course, you should know the truth. The truth is that for sure, most of us are here because of some of decisions that were made for a long time.
Right.
And which actually have been well documented why, and there are a couple of reasons around it. And there's a better way to look at it than we are looking at it right now. And I'm not saying I'm right, everyone else is wrong. I'm just saying we should be able to evaluate these soberly, and I'm sure not everyone will be like, and I've seen this actually even on Twitter. When some of these discussions are brought about, some of the definition have been changed on Google. Can you imagine that? Yeah. It's getting serious. So yeah, if you're not aware, just check around. I don't want to get into it, but when time is right, I'll really go into like details. And one thing that I was discouraging is because it's a rat race and it has no end. Once you go in, you will not have an end. And you see, life has to be predictable in some way. Like at this point, this is what is expected of me, or I expect this of me. And from this point, this is what I want to see. And with that predictability, as much as the life is challenging by itself, then people have hope, and also they can actually solve problems as they go. Because also, even when you talk about youth, even beyond sex education, there's this expectation of like, I'm a graduate, I should be having a V8, I should be, when you see a good car, when you see a good building, anything you see, you want it to be yours. And in actuality, it can't. That's the truth, that's the fact, it can't change. And then that puts you in a place of depression, stress, resentment. And we expect Africans to be more productive than they are to be able to solve most of our problems. So it has to be an holistic approach. Now, before we go deep into this and we lose track, you get to Form 4. And you again have fun with the KCSE. How was that? Were you like, no, I'm ready? You know, when I did my KCSE, and I'll share this from a personal point of view, I didn't think I was ready. But I had confidence that this one, whatever it is, it is what it is. Number one is because my first, I think, 2.5 years, it wasn't a good experience as I shared earlier. But the other 2 years, I saw it can be different. And I thank God for that experience, because one side is, okay, did I say thank God? Yes, I thank God. So one side was like, there's no hope. Yeah. And I know there are people who are in life, in that, even as you speak right now, they're in a place where they can't see tomorrow. They can't see what happened next. For sure. And then I go to this school and I'm like, it's possible. Actually, this can be done. It doesn't matter if I'm given 3 months or 4 months. That's why I was like, it's KCSE anyway. Yeah. Right? It could be worse than this. Do you understand? Because here, we never actually got to a quarter a book of KIE math. There is no book that we finished in any particular class. Yes. Yeah, but when we are hearing people in Alliance and other places finish their syllabus in first or second term in Form 3. And the rest of the time is just going through everything. Sure. And we are told, you know what? Everything will come from Form 1 and 2. Most of it, like 60 to 70% will come from Form 1 and 2. Where we didn't cover nothing. Now I say, okay, this could be worse. Yeah. I'm here. I've seen it can be done. There are people who actually have done it. So for me, I was at least in a better position when I did my KCSE. Not that the perfect one, but in a better position. But what is it for you? And by the way, Sylvia, you can share yours.
I actually think she should go first.
Yeah.
Tell us.
Yes. How was it for you with the KCSE?
KCSE was an interesting experience. I liked that the papers were well spaced, and I am part of Matiang's firstborns. So
it was tough.
No, so for our year, if you had KCSE made familiar, it was the equivalent of gold at that time.
True.
Yeah.
People used to pay premium. Familiar.
Mine was stolen during that KCSE period. It was that bad because our papers were coming right from the past papers. So this was the time you've done them before, probably just as revision or exercise, but now you know they're bringing them from any of this. We have a whole book to go through. People would book that book and we'd go for tea break when someone is reading a question, a whole group, someone answers, we look at the answers. Because you don't have time to borrow. There are few. They're not there in the library anymore. Everyone has borrowed. It was insane. So that experience was quite something for us. We were selling KMF. People were buying them, sending teachers to buy them. It was insane. But
what is KMF?
KCSE Made Familiar. It's a book with all the past papers from 1990 something.
Is it like those books they create from sunshine? Or these are
from
separate ones?
It's just KCSE questions.
Oh, okay.
Collection.
Questions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's now per subject. So you have the KMF math, you have all the past papers from around 80 something to the current, the most
Last
recent.
year.
So it's how your memory serves you.
It was all about memory. It was all cramming.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it was a very beautiful period. I enjoyed it.
When I hear these experiences, I'm like, my life could have been different. For sure. Tell you what, I never saw most of these things.
No.
Yeah. The closest I come to like seeing things really make sense is Simuturi.
Simuturi.
Yes.
Solving problems.
No, math Simuturi
solving
something.
problems in math. Simuturi by Simuturi. That's the author name, but everyone calls them.
That's the closest.
These are the
Imagine.
people who used to remember page books, page numbers. let it be noted.
No, that's the closest I came to it, and especially my last 2 years. And actually, they're not 2 years. It's like 1 year and few months. So when I hear people actually used to revise, like you're saying, I'm like, wow, there's so much inequality across the country.
True.
Apparently, even as we speak, there are people who are not doing CBC. You'll be surprised, by the way, when these guys get tested. There are people who are not doing, because every teacher is also learning CBC and teaching CBC.
Yeah.
Now, here in Nairobi, of course, I've seen chaos. Now, imagine outside Nairobi,
Yeah.
go
It
to
gets
the
worse.
remotest place. Things that people are requested to bring here. Like every other week, you're printing something for your kid. Now, imagine in
There are places that
Lokicha.
doesn't even have
Yes.
electricity.
Yeah. Now you want the parents to
Do you understand?
Exactly.
So you can see CBC as much as, and I'm not critiquing it, I'm just saying even with KCSE or KCP, there's those disparities. Can we be able to harmonize education so that the standard is equal? Because me, I've always been a believer that innovation, smartness, IQ is equally distributed across the country or even across the
For
continent.
sure.
Now, move away from Kenya. At least you have traveled a bit and you've seen. It's chaos. Total chaos that even if someone makes it from that place,
Yeah.
those are the guys who change the world because they make something out of nothing,
Nothing, for sure.
right? So even as you have these podcasts, I want us to think like if really Africa has to really change things, if you have to be the impact masters, as we say, how can we? Because tomorrow it might be the Minister of Education.
Yeah.
Africa, I see Africa being united. What can we do different to address? A matter of like advanced stuff, but things that actually could spread and scale without much of loans and all these things that people create around it, and change the dynamics. Because having traveled across this country alone and meeting people who otherwise had no idea what they want to be, and now you see you can be sent in an unlikely university. You guys, maybe you're sent to the most likely universities. You can be sent to an unlikely
one.
We have 65 universities I don't know if you know all of them. Maybe you guys know like 4 or 5.
I don't think I know all of them.
Do you even
Yes.
know 10?
Imagine 65. If you are sent to one of those that you don't know, and you
Yeah.
just know 5, there are another 60 that you don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Imagine the chances of you making it anything. It's crazy. So even when we do outreach, when we do some of these things, the thing that you want people to know is that we are presenting a platform where resources are equal. You can access for you and your friends, and if you come together, it's even much better. You can make it. But how was a KCSE?
I remember we moved to the dining hall. The dining hall was rendered null and void, persona non grata. If you're not a Form 4, kindly eat outside. Why are you wasting our time? Especially the third term. It was crazy. It was very, very. I remember I also had my own section at the corner somewhere. So KCSE wasn't bad. I don't think I picked a reference. I was actually thinking about whether ours was from KMF or KCSE Made Familiar. I don't think it was for us because I was a year after. I did my exam a year after you. I don't think it was, but it really wasn't that bad. It was, at least for me, please, at least for me, because I think the more access you have, and I was actually just thinking about how important access is to getting leverage, So, for instance, the fact that we had seen a couple of these questions all across the board. So some of these questions that had come during our mocks or our exams previously, or we had seen them we had this, we had a lab manual that was printed, like it was school owned, where we used to do like labs, our lab practicals every week. So every day actually in Form 4. So you're imagining that even going into the lab sessions, it wasn't very difficult for us because these are questions we had already come and seen, so it wasn't really anything new. Until recently, actually a week ago, I was talking to some lady, she's in Form 3, and she's telling me how they don't do lab practicals. I know. They don't do lab practicals.
There are schools that do not have labs.
Exactly.
Or they have lab, but they do not have
they
the
hardly ever
equipment.
use them. And she's telling me how, especially like, because she's in Form 3 right now, so the current Form 4s, how they've only gone to the lab, they've only had 3 lab sessions the entire year. And I was imagining how by the end of second term, going into third term, how we were so fed up with lab practicals because it was a daily thing. It was during afternoon break, you'd go to the lab. 4:30, go to the lab. Daily, Monday to Friday. Ole wako, if you did 3 sciences, you'd have lab practicals every day, Monday to Friday. So you're imagining how, I was actually even thinking about how access really puts us at a different place all across, especially within the education system, because there are people who didn't have access, or like they didn't have the privilege that we had, the information that we had. You're looking at things like KMF. How many students actually have KMF till this day?
It's still
It's something that everyone, especially if you've gone to a school that basically binds by it or prays by it or promise, like how to phrase it, like speaks to it, how KMF is very important. But there's so many other people and there's so many other students who don't even know KMF exists, leave alone having it.
And is it by design that they print less of that, or because this is the first time I'm hearing about it?
Oh, they're just normal books. It's just just you buy it in the textbook store or anywhere. It's just like any other revision book. Maybe it's a bit expensive or something, so you can't have all of them, and you have many subjects. So maybe you have one, someone else has another subject.
So you do exchange
That's
program.
That's how we work. You just schedule it, say, hey, can I borrow this tomorrow? So that's how it works. Even the library had very few. There were like 2 or 3.
Okay.
So the moment people realized the exam was, everyone ran together. Very few. So you have to learn how to read in a group, things like those. And not everyone, again, actually has access to them in the first place.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. You get to dining.
Get to the dining.
Person and granta place.
Persona non grata. From 1 to Form 3, we shall not see you in this dining hall. I remember we actually wreaked havoc in high school because we shifted the timing, the sleeping times. Supposed to sleep by 11, now we're sleeping at 2 a.m. People were not sleeping. We really were not sleeping. But I appreciate myself and I appreciate my group members and my friends and like the entirety of the students of Loreto High School Limuru 2017 because we pulled through for each other. Yeah. We really held each other's hands. We worked together. And by and large, we did really well. So yeah, and it was not the greatest experience. I don't think such pressure should. We would not advocate for such pressure, but it was a good experience.
Yeah, you have said pressure, and I remembered earlier today I was saying, and I was remembering that people ask, "Can you work?" And I work well under pressure. It's a statement that people present in their resumes or CVs with pride. And I realized, by the way, it's systematic, like it's by design, because if for sure, and these are an African culture that we need to drop.
Yeah.
This one last minute kind of approach, whereby you wait all along, you're okay, until maybe a day or few hours to you put in everything. And I think we develop this from the exams that we do every day, whereby we don't try to understand stuff, we try to cram. Yeah. And again, just using the example of the high school I went to, the second one, I realized there are people who don't struggle to understand things. Yeah. And I learned a lot from them. Yeah. Like if you take time to understand when something is presented and really you get it in your brain, it's really hard for it to go. Because these guys never struggle to like, it's the last day.
Yeah.
Or there are people who have leak or someone will beat me. It's just, this is what I understand, this is what I will present, and life
That's
moves
all
on.
there is.
And these guys used to present really, really good example. One of the guys, the one I was telling you about earlier, the guy who nothing he looked at. And he took 3 sciences. Actually, if there were like 4 more, he
Could have done them.
And he's a guy who will find in every trouble that you think of. He's a guy who was easy. He used anything and everything that goes around. But it was easy. I'm living my life.
It's actually important. It's actually interesting that you say that. I have a friend of mine, we're in high school together and we were still in uni together. And she literally only needs to sit down and listen.
That's all.
She won't forget.
Yeah.
Jella needs to listen. She won't take notes for who? Just hear. I need to have a blue, black, red, yellow, green pen. I need to underline and italize. I cannot understand with just listening. I will probably sleep. And and what you're saying is very important because there's so many. And I think CBC hopefully does this, leverages that playing ground because we learn very differently.
True.
We really learn very differently. And you're imagining someone only needs to sit down and listen, and you need to put in 65 hours, and you're still not understanding half of the things that they understand. So there is also that need to leverage and create spaces where different learning styles or architectures can shine exactly and be incorporated together.
Yeah. So apparently that's very, very important. So you performed really well. What did you get?
I got an A-.
That's good. That's good.
Sylvia, what did you get? Thank you. What did you get?
An A-.
Oh gosh. And you, what did you get?
Me.
Out of 141.
141.
We're in that crew of the 141 era. So.
Oh yeah.
You were supposed to get an A.
In my heart.
Oh, it's still an A.
It is an A. You are. You're the 142nd.
However, on the ground.
So one day I'll tell my story. It's one of the interesting stories.
For sure.
When I tell it, by the way, you'll see why it's very interesting.
Okay, we can't wait.
It's one of the unlikely. I would say one of the unlikely outcomes. Yes. But anyway,
you should be the one seated here now.
No, one of these fine days I'll sit there. My story is quite fascinating, and I feel I'm not yet ready to tell it because one, it might impact in a negative and positive way, both sides. But I hope when I'm ready, it will impact in a positive way.
You'll be ready to listen.
And I feel like if I tell my story right now, other people's story will not sound interesting to listen to.
Wow.
No, for me, not for them. Because I like when you tell your story, I can also bring a few.
You can add a little.
And you see, that's how interesting it becomes because now I can see myself in one or the other.
Yeah.
But of course, one of these fine days, or in the coming years, I'll be able to see it and tell.
Can't wait.
I also have not seen someone who can ask the right questions yet.
Have you tried?
For me.
Have you tried? Try first.
I have.
Right.
Even some of my guests, sometimes we have a chat and I'm like, okay. There's only one guy, but of course,
Graham.
Yeah, he's always. Yes, I don't know if he's around, but he's the guy I feel like, this guy can ask the right questions, but not yet there. But of course, even him, it's really hard to get him as a guest. I think we'll get he as.
You should actually have
you host
exactly.
But for him, he has stories for days in different subjects. Oh my goodness,
that's amazing.
Sometimes even when you're having a discussion, I feel like getting a mic and cameras because I'm like, if people really had this across Africa, it would change a lot of things.
For
even
sure.
the way people view God, even the way people view the Bible, even the way people view Islam, even the way people view technology, innovation. In a subject, and that's how I like some of the discussions because I believe Africans were endowed with knowledge beyond our imagination.
For sure.
From even the guests I've hosted here, oh my, like we are not telling enough. Yeah, there's so much. But ideally, you knew that you'll go to JKUAT, or was it one of the selection, or how did that happen?
I think it was my selection. It was my. Actually, I wanted to do either electrical or telecoms.
Why electrical or telecoms? Specifically. Yeah.
I think it was feeding into the small things of what I remember when I started talking about me being 8 years. So I fast forwarded that to now moving towards fixing the DVD player at home a couple of years later and being the one who was tinkering with stuff and mending things in the house even when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So there was that interest.
Yeah.
So after high school, I sit down with myself and I'm like, and it's interesting how around the same time I was finishing up with high school is the time when they had the Orengo, the whole election petition. Exactly. Yeah. So it was very insightful for me because I was like, I do not want to do this. And that is okay. That is fine. So I had to now go back to the drawing board. So by the time I'm finishing high school, I have no idea what I want to do, but I just know I don't want to do law. So, and I think I was actually thinking about it in the morning. It was a first place, this was a first incept of community because my mom introduced me to 4 engineers. She introduced me to 4 different engineers. She was like, meet that one, go talk to them. Meet that one, go talk to them. Meet that one, go talk to them.
What kind of engineers?
There was a civil engineer, there was an electrical engineer, there was a mechanical engineer. I think the other one had done water engineering at something to do with Kenya Water something. Then also...
Were they all girls or there was some...
It was mixed. Okay. It was 2 ladies, 3 ladies and a gentleman. And I remember also now starting to talk to my friends who are in campus and asking them, how did you do this? How are you doing this? How are you able to do this? What made you choose this, take this choice? So I was actually thinking about how that's starting to talk about the kind of problem I was going through or the kind of problem I had at the time was the first incept for me in community. So I think I kind of tinkered around, spoke to a couple of people, decided. So come the time to do the placement, I decided, okay, let's just choose JKUAT. So JKUAT, this and this school.
So you guys used to do placement after the exam?
We did twice.
You
So
did
the
during,
first time,
before even the exam?
Yeah, the first
And then after the
revision.
results?
So the first time I'd written law.
Okay.
So I'd done UN law, JKUAT law.
Okay.
It was actually UN law and KU. Was it NKU? There was UN law, KU law, JKUAT, all the laws, all traditional schools that actually offer law. And then now afterwards, now come the revision time, I'm just like, I can't do this. It doesn't fit me anymore.
Yeah.
So, and having spoken to now this couple of engineers and having gotten an insight into kind of the things that they were doing, I really liked the engineering space, especially the electrical engineering space. But again, from a point of ignorance, I said, Mr. Kikukwa fundi wa stima? No.
Because the electrical just translates to that? Okay.
Again, that's all I knew at the time. It's not all there is, but that's all I knew.
and remembering the blackout that we had the other day, like, I have something for these electrical engineers. Like, you guys do your stuff really well. I don't want to use the curse words, but do you really do it well? Or?
Actually, I read something very interesting on Twitter on how it's a correlation with the dropping of thermal power at Turkana or something. Okay, let me not. I probably will give rumors.
Explain that to anyone else. Not typical engineers, but it's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll fix these things by the...
For sure.
Mark my words. Yeah, some of these things I feel like, not that I'm in position of power or anything, but I believe
who knows?
There are some of things that we should not be experiencing. To some extent, the kind of engineers that we have, the smartness that we have across Africa, there are some things that...
It's not a problem we should have encountered the whole country.
Not be happening.
But also, I don't ignore that some of these things are by design. To some extent, I don't really know. When you have a blackout over 12 hours, 18 hours to some extent.
Yeah.
Because think of it this way. How much losses do you bring people? Even individuals who have maybe stuff in the fridge or people who wanted to work remote job.
Yeah.
There's some, if you think about it, the loss that you incur is more than whatever the design, blackout among as many other failures. And I'm happy what, not even in the power industry, but what the new government is doing is things like e-citizen. I've been like saying this for longest, maybe for the last 10 years, that when I look at other, developed world website, government website versus ours, like, all these engineers I interact with every day and see some cool designs.
How come?
Where do you expect them to implement some of this cool stuff? So most of these guys end up going to Europe, going to US, going to, some of the engineers work in the State House, by the way, from here, from this country. Some of them work for Tesla. People I know, actually, not like people say. But why do we let all this talent go? Because of our selfish interest, whereby, my cousin knows how to write HTML and CSS, put them there. And then you don't want to hear anything and no one can fire them.
Yeah.
We need to move beyond that. We're not saying your cousin should not get a job.
Yeah.
But of course, accept your cousin is supposed to be an intern first to learn some of these things.
To grow.
There's also merit that comes with it.
So let's be merit-based because, of course, if you ask me, we have the right, actually more than the right talent.
We do.
Two, there are people who really give up because some of these opportunities are given out. And also let's encourage people to even do entrepreneurship whereby you can actually consult for all these people. But the government, as much as I'm not seeing so much from the current government, at least they're on the right track when it comes to the systems. Of course, e-citizens look good, looks good,
really
but when you go to the specific services, they're not yet there. But if you can be able to do all of these together, and actually this could be emulated from Rwanda. If you go to Rwanda here, you can register business in 6 hours. 6 hours.
Yeah.
So you could land there, register business, and come back home.
Yeah.
6 hours is good.
And you're done.
And they want to implement the Mauritius way of doing business. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So can you imagine that? So it can be done. We're not talking about things that cannot be done. The other day we were at ALU and Carnegie Mellon in Rwanda. And you find all Africans represented there. These guys built systems that I could not imagine. Within, I think, 8 hours, 6 hours.
Or the hackathon you had in Rwanda.
Yeah. So you can't tell me otherwise. Like I'm already sold out. I'm already convinced this is
We
working.
actually have
and we
potential for sure.
So it's a matter of also because you see, innovation cannot exist in vacuum. So policies have to support these things to do with how we perceive the solution we want to see. The expectation from the citizens, because I'm proud to pay right now. Actually, I would say confidently, I'm proud to pay for something e-citizen because of the usability and all that. Do you know right now you can see your ID on e-citizen? You can see your passport. You can see your driving license. This is the way it is. So even if you forgot it at home, people have spent. There are people maybe in jail because they forgot their passport or whatever it is or driving license, and they could not show it to a cop.
Yeah.
This is serious. Someone maybe is in jail as we speak right now because they forgot and the cop could not log into his and see. Imagine how many lives will be improved just by that one experience. So, William Ruto, His Excellency, good job. If it's you who is doing this, good job. Keep doing it. Present merited kind of stuff or work that people could actually plug in. And we support you from the tech ecosystem. But of course, again, we need to address the electrical. What was steamer?
What was steamer?
Categorically. We can do better. That's what I can say right now.
For sure.
So you didn't want to become a mtu steamer?
I didn't want to become a mtu steamer. You see, the kind of problems I had.
I could be looking.
That would be your reputation.
Imagine, I could have been the one in the hot seat, having to explain why.
Yeah.
I'll be looking in some kind of way. Tukimaliza shule. May God be with you.
May God be with us all. So I think it was from a point of ignorance that I picked telecoms. If I'm being honest, it was a point of ignorance.
So if you were given that choice again, you'd pick electrical?
No, I probably would. See the way there's a poem we did in high school with Robert Frost. There's a verse that says, "You see how way turns on to way." So having made that choice out of ignorance has led me to a point where now I can't turn back. Now I really like it.
Okay. But you know there's nothing happens by accident.
Sorry?
Nothing happens by accident.
True. For sure. That's
but
100%.
From the human nature, we think, okay.
Just by accident.
Also in this podcast, we get spiritual, so don't worry. So from the human perspective, you look at it and like, this was by accident. But when you sit back and take time, you're like, this was meant to happen.
It was.
If this didn't happen, this could not have happened. If this didn't happen, you see things actually start now making sense.
It starts stacking up.
Yeah, so you're on the right track. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
By and large.
Yeah.
So so I picked telecoms. Got called, joined. started my program.
That was your first choice?
It was.
Okay.
It was. My first choice was telecoms and then electrical. It was actually telecoms, and then electrical.
Those are different universities.
Yeah, telecoms at JKUAT, telecoms at multimedia, because multimedia I think was the only one that was offering telecoms at the time. And then electrical at JKUAT, electrical at Junn. Yeah.
So UN doesn't offer telecoms? They stopped?
Not that I know.
No, they have
When I was joining, there was
Science,
Oh, okay.
There's a difference.
not
I thought
engineering.
maybe when I was joining, there was telecommunication engineering or something. But you see, when I was joining, by the way, one of my guardian was used to be I don't know if it's they're called what? The piloting, not pilots. The engineers who deal with the aeroplanes.
Aeronautical.
Aerospace.
Aerospace.
Not exactly. The guys who travel with the guys who travel with like jets and stuff or airplanes. Always there is an engineer.
The first engineer,
Something like that, but in the military. So
Oh.
yeah. When I tell my story, I'll talk about him a bit.
We should.
So he's the guy who actually showed me the reality of engineering post what I anticipated. Me from day one, I wanted to be
Yeah.
an engineer. But over time, okay, I wanted to be two things, an engineer or a musician. But I realized over time, singing is not my thing for some reason. But I believe if I could...
Wow.
If I could practice enough and given an environment, I could be a musician. So I don't rule it out. But of course, the environment did not conspire with me, or the nature did not conspire with me. So I started also tinkering around with law and journalism, which actually did not turn out because I was lucky enough to visit all these universities before I joined them.
That's amazing.
And every time I went to any university, I had their own story, which I'll tell one day. And when I went to the university I wanted to do engineering, it happened to be it. But now I was like, why don't you do telecommunication engineering? It's quite on demand, and given the facts and all whatnot, you will make it. I'm like, when the mobile phone came about, this wiring of you remember we had a wired kind of telecommunication from Posta and Telecom now, the one that we call Telecom. They took those wires down within a year, or they were taken down, or I don't know what happened, or they were harvested for some reason. 1 year there was no. Even right now you might be surprised. There is no. They're called line. Call them what?
Phone line.
They're called phone lines.
I guess.
The keyboard telephones.
Yes.
But if you go to other developed world, those things they still exist. But here we took them within a year. That actually opened my eyes on how fast the technology can change. So number one, I was discouraged with anything to do with anything you say telecom. I was like, if it's not software. And again, another thing is that I was thinking from the point of like, what is the cost that I could do that is one, mobile, two, entry point is not that steep, and I can start it. I don't need anyone else. I can build it. I can start it if I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I settled on software engineering. But after visiting KU, I changed my mind. Hey, KU, this is not an engineering school.
What happened?
Here is there is no engineering going on here. But don't worry. When I tell this story, you'll hear my view. That's my personal view. Then law and journalism. So I was left with law, journalism, and anything to do with computer science, right? So I went to UON. I visited, of course, the main campus where journalism journalism is offered. Law is in Parklands. So I went to main campus, like journalism. I visited actually some of those lectures. I was so disappointed. Then I realized this thing is for the beauty, not even for the content or brilliant or anything. And then I realized, by the way, how many radio station and TV station do you have? I did my math real quick. Imagine I gave up in that process. Then when I saw, I did not perform really, really well the languages. So, no, it's not me. So I was left with law and one of engineering, especially either, even then, by the way, I was not thinking about electrical engineering. So So it's like, I'll do something to do with engineering, but I'm not so sure it's electrical. So when I went there, they were offering electrical. And I was told, if you want, actually it's just opposite main. I was told, if you want computing or anything, go to Chiromo. Chiromo? Is that nowhere medics are? How come that engineering is happening here, but the other engineering is happening the other side? No, they say, no, it's not engineering, it's computer science. Between main campus and Chiromo, I've done my enough research. What is I was like, this is better. I'm getting everything at the same place, which is software engineering, anything to do with the computing, anything to do with the computer science itself, and so on and so forth. So I went there, and there was this guy called Labala. And I was like, you know what? I asked him, is there like a very affordable course that I could do here as I wait? Because we used to wait for 2 years. You guys are so lucky, by the way. You guys are like, you finish high school, you're in university. We used to wait for 2 years, and a lot of things can happen in 2 years. I was like, we used to offer ICT diploma, but I don't think. But if you're in a hurry, you could do computer science diploma. I'm like, diploma? Okay. But to cut the story short, where I was going with this story is that my guardian, who happened to work for Air Force, Kenya Air Force, he showed me the reality of engineering. One, he said there's what we call calculus. And he showed me his books in the military. He showed me discrete math. He showed me everything, like, this is it. I could not make sense what is happening here. And remember, I've done some proper math in high school. I'm like, okay, calculus makes sense to some extent. But introductory part, like what we did and struggled with is introduction. And this is the thing. Then we go to algebra.
Integration.
Okay, remember by the time I'm finishing high school, I'm like, why are we dealing with A, B, C, D, X, Y, whatever? Then I saw the statistics.
Kushamanino.
Why are you writing here? What does this?
What's this symbol?
And
it's everywhere.
But he told me the reality.
Yeah.
This is what you're going to deal with. But the catch of all this is that these are just formulas expounded. So if you understand the formula, you'll have no problem understanding all these things. All these things are details.
Yeah.
And I was like, not that bad. I can understand the formula. That's how I was able to survive KCSE paper 2. Just 2-3 formulas got me good marks.
Yeah.
So this one should not be hard. So that's how I was introduced to engineering. And also I was given a reality check.
Yeah.
Right? That's that's why I don't believe also in mentorship. Because I realized, okay, someone actually can tell you something and you give up. And if it's not well packaged and, broken down, you could really give up. So that's the extent of which we went through. And I believe we could do more, especially, and this actually goes down to the people who are in high schools and wherever. If maybe you have a parent or something, don't do it when someone has finished exams. Or when now, even some parents don't expect you to go to college. That's what I realized over time.
Ooh.
There are some parents who actually, she passed. Now what do we do?
I never expected.
Yeah, like now when you get like school fee, now you have to be, there's so much that comes with the people going to campus. And someone was like, maybe, especially for girls, maybe she should finish high school, get married, or maybe do a small course there. Right? And we need to change that perspective by actually engaging and that's one thing I like about CBC, that you don't engage someone when at a certain stage, you engage them continuously. But I'm not advocating for transferring the teacher's responsibility to a parent. Because of course, number one, a parent has bills to pay, has all these things going on in their life. And some of them, maybe even they didn't have that chance, especially in African setup.
Yeah.
They are giving this chance to their children. And they are working so hard for this chance, for their children to get this chance. So there is that. So for you, you said you had 4 engineers. Hey, you had the best of the best. 4 engineers to take you through civil engineering, what happens in university. And I believe all of them were in school or they had graduated.
No, they're actually professionals at the time.
Yeah, so you see you had the best experience. This is what happens in school. This is what you should expect after school. Imagine if everyone had that chance.
Yeah, for sure.
Things would be real different.
Exactly.
So you go to Jamaica.
JKUAT. I think it's very different.
Juja boys.
There's JKUAT and there's Juja.
They're two different
They're
things.
two different places.
Yeah, but everyone just calls it.
Me, I was in JKUAT. I'm in JKUAT, not in Juja.
Why do they call it Jamaica?
You're actually one of the people who use it very, very often that I know of.
That's what they call it. Maybe I'm realistic.
It's
And by the way,
just
do you know where I
Juja.
got this name? I never believed that it's called Jamaica. The first time I visited there, and I slept there for, I think, 2 days, doing my research, by the way. Personally.
Research.
Yes. Then there was nothing. There were those prefabs where you watch TV. I don't know if you still watch TVs there. Some prefabs there in between. When I came there, actually, I told you about it. Yeah.
Hall 2, Hall 3.
Oh, they have like this TV up and downstairs.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Actually, even they were worse than high school. I don't know if they still exist. Those prefabs, they where people could just watch a TV and stuff. So when I saw that, actually, I was like, what? This is serious. But next time I came there, when I met Sylvia and I think you, it was, I think, 7 years or almost 10 years down the line. I was so impressed because there was so much going on there. There were buildings. There was now JICA. There was, IAB was had set up there. The place looked really like a university, like, something nice. That's when I heard that it's called Juja Boys, and I could not dispute then because it looks even worse than a high school. Yeah, it was that bad. The only place that looked like, this can be a college is the, don't want to call them garage, but, the places where mechanical engineers, the workshops here, where they do their thing, those still existed. And you can see they're pretty old.
Yeah, the workshop.
That's why now you could go and say, for sure, people do some stuff here. But despite that, the point I want to make here is, despite all this, and also big up to Dad and Kimathi, the people thrive. Like people, and this is where now I want people to listen to me carefully. It doesn't matter the environment you're in. It's what you do with that environment.
Yes.
And if you're really self-driven, you could achieve a lot. What actually you guys experienced at JKUAT was not there. It's because of those guys. Even the project about rockets was not there. Because those guys made everyone believe that anything serious should be happening at Juja. And guess what? The biggest contributor of that is community.
For sure.
Yeah. I don't know if you still guys are holding the culture. Yeah, there's another podcast I will release from an old boy of JKUAT. Really
Please
interesting.
do.
Yeah.
It would be so interesting.
But how was your experience?
In JKUAT? It's I think, how's my experience? Trying to think here.
Were you used to many people so far?
By this time, I'm used to a lot of people. So even transitioning to JKUAT is not that big a hurdle. And then for majority of the time I was commuting, so it wasn't all that bad.
The scholar or?
The scholar. So come to classes. Unfortunately for me, class bounce. If the class bounces on my way to school, I need to find things interesting to do with my day.
Because you are not going back home.
Yes. So sometimes I'd actually have to go back home. You're on transit. You have nowhere to go in between. Okay. And it's probably like 8 in the morning. Why are you going at 8 in the morning?
True.
So you just go back home. Yeah. So, but generally my experience in JKUAT has been very, very great. And I like what you're saying because I was talking to a friend of mine. He graduated with you actually. And we're talking about how different people experience JKUAT differently.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Depending with what you do with your time there. People in your class, she graduated last year. People in her class, this year. Oh yeah, sorry, she graduated this year. People in your class experience JKUAT differently.
Please explain.
I was looking at, and sometimes I'm actually even looking at the kind of exposure I've gotten, especially within the last 2 years, with now the projects I'm doing or the kind of associations I'm having with some of my lecturers and some of industry people in industry. And all of this is also stemming from the fact that I'm in university at the time, And I do not want, by no means am I saying I am better than anyone, but you have a discussion with someone who's also in engineering school, and you can see the difference of what exposure has done.
Yeah.
And you can see, you can clearly tell that we are going through the same school, but having very different experiences and having very different stories of what we're going out of from JKUAT, what we're going out with from JKUAT.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So you're so modest about this. And with your colleague here saying, yes. These are people who have traveled to Japan, guys. So they should not be modest. They should be telling you how to do it, not saying different. Guys, I believe in one thing.
Yeah.
There are more opportunities for all of us.
For sure,
Actually, there are
for
more
sure.
than enough for all of
Yeah.
us. It's not a zero-sum game. Because I have, you don't. So I believe that if I know something, why not share? Of course, there are people who take advantage, but should I really mind? I've done my part.
Yeah.
So you have been building rockets for the longest.
Longest is relative, but yes.
No, 1 year, 9 months is long.
Yes, 1 year, 9 months is
Let
long.
me show you how long it is. Starlink has launched in Kenya.
Yes.
I hear there is IoT satellite that has launched across the world. Kenya launched their own satellite.
Satellites, for sure.
I don't know. Uganda also launched their own satellites. India
Launched
no, not
rover.
India. Which one?
Yes,
which one crashed in the
moon.
Whatever was it? India.
Yeah, it was.
India. Between those one
The 1 year, 9 months.
So it's all short. It's all short.
Yeah,
A
lots
lot of things
have
happen
happened,
around,
for sure.
the
space.
aeronautical and space and,
Yeah.
and engineering altogether. And this not only comes to as failures or as successes, it comes as lessons for everyone, depending on how you look at it. And for you have been building rockets. How is that? Because, when I was growing up, well, when I say that now, I feel old. We were used to tell, this is not rocket science. I need to just tell you, this is not the hardest thing. And that should tell you rocket science is hard. But you're building these rockets. How is it like? Is it home math? Is it all hardware? Please take us through like a standard or grade 2.
Introduction. Rocket Science 101.
This is where you shine.
This is where I shine. Anyways, actually saw
But how did you start from? How did you get engaged?
how I got in. I saw a post some time back where someone said it was two photos. So there's one, a rocket scientist who's teaching students, and he's like, no, it was a music lesson. So the teacher says it's not that hard, it's not rocket science. And then the next photo, it's a rocket scientist teaching children rocket science, and he's like, it's not that hard, it's not music theory.
I agree.
You see?
I agree.
Really depends with how you look at it. But I think first and foremost, and what we need to understand, especially to those people who are young and also joining the space, especially the engineering space, getting a foothold is the problem, is the biggest hurdle you have to cross. After that, you go through step by step. You're literally spoon-fed. I remember when we were in first year, we had chemistry classes and physics classes. We had to go back to high school, physics, high school, chemistry, high school, mathematics. So it's a build-up. So even by the time right now, and I was actually thinking about your guardian, if right now I show you the kind of things we're working with digital signal processing, that's a whole mountain to climb. But what you forget is that there was a previous class I took, and a previous class I took, and a previous class I took. And every semester, there's always that lecturer who says, from your previous knowledge. And sometimes you ask yourself, which knowledge?
Which knowledge?
It's always, it's a build-up. And the same thing with rocket science. So how did I start? How did I start? I remember when I was in high school, I really used to like watching SpaceX rocket launches.
The same SpaceX.
Yeah, same SpaceX.
When they were failing terribly.
Yes, when they were failing terribly. I remember there was one time they were trying to recover the second stage, and it failed massively. And I found it very interesting. And I remember my mom used to come to my bedroom and ask me, and by the time I don't even have a laptop, I'm watching on like a very small screen, very small phone. Like, what are you doing awake at 3 a.m.? Because that's the only time that they were launching. So you have to stay up until 3 a.m. to watch it. And I don't want to watch it as a past recording. No, I want it to
real
be
time.
Be there. So I think that was like the first introduction to like the entire space industry or the entire space world.
Yeah.
So coming to university, I've been very, very lucky to meet people, especially even in my class, but also outside of it, to meet people who share my interests. People who feed into my interests. And those people who will call you, June, SpaceX. I remember in first 10 seconds, they used to call each other. But SpaceX is launching. Ebu, wake up. Hey, there's this that's happening. Ebu, wake up. There's this test that, Ebu, wake up. And it was not for anything, but just watching and seeing this engineering beauty come to life and seeing a rocket going into outer space and wondering, wow, okay.
Yeah. And now they land back.
And they land back, exactly. And they land back perfectly.
Precisely.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So thinking, now trying to even imagine yourself in that space and making up these big wild dreams of being in that space. I remember then one time I was in third year. I was going home. I'd had a class. It was something called CES Tech Week. She was part of the co-organizers.
And the chair.
The chair.
That's when I met you guys, right? No,
I don't think I met you, but
Oh, yeah.
it's during that time, yeah.
Oh.
After that, that's when you became the chair?
That was
She was the chair then.
The chair.
Yeah.
Ah, you guys know how to be modest. She's the one who will come. She's like, you're from the Africa Talking? These way, please. I'm like, what do you do around here? We're trying to, please, up the stairs.
And she has very good PR.
Oh, my goodness.
She has very good PR.
My goodness.
Let me tweet her on. Going back to the story.
I'll speak about that story in conclusion one day.
All right, awesome. So it was during CES Tech Week, and I'd come in the morning, and the show it had not started.
So what is CES Week?
CES Week is basically a culmination of engineers coming together.
What is CES? Maybe that's the right
CES
question
is
should be
it's Society of Engineering Students, JKUAT chapter. It's basically a community for engineering students across the space to nerd out about the things they do, to learn together, to grow together, to experience life together. Yeah.
When was the CES started? CES is SES.
Yes.
When was it started?
It was started in 2000 it was about 15-16 years by the time I was taking over.
Oh.
So it's been there for a couple of years.
So
But it was
probably
not
early
as
2000s.
Yeah, or early 2010s, around that time frame.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
get the right.
Yeah, because when I was in school, I don't think there was CES per se, or it was not that big.
It
Because
was,
we used to invite some of your guys for hackathon. Should I finish that statement?
Maybe
And they
at
never used to come?
some point.
Where we used to beat them hands down.
Oh, now do you?
We do even today.
I'd love
my
to see that
God.
Yeah.
by the way.
Do they happen where schools actually invite each other nowadays?
We really try.
Like in your
Yeah,
time, did you like
exactly.
call
Yeah.
multimedia? You were in Technical University of Nairobi,
Of Kenya.
Kenya.
JKUAT, KU.
We really try, like the student body, let's say the CES body and the, for example, in UN, it's
Yeah, maybe we should organize one.
Yeah.
Maybe we should let
do
even
They
forget
actually
that they are
should.
organizing. We should organize one.
Intervarsity
Yeah.
hackathon.
Yes.
Let's see
Where
what
we
It would be
see.
so awesome.
Yeah.
It should actually be really, really amazing.
Maybe please let's
Rep your school.
plan something. Yeah. And see, because also that also gave us an idea like where people stop just dumping and they realize there are people who are smarter than, by this sometime you might think you're the smartest person in the world. Until you meet people who are like,
And then they're very chill
and
about
they,
it.
they don't look like
They
it.
don't look like it.
Like
Actually,
I'll give you this. Like when this used to happen, it was not organized by us, but of course we're participating. But UN guys even came, listened to the intro, and then disappeared. And then by then hackathon was not happening in a single day. So when it comes to presentation, that's when people realize, so these guys did not just go to do other things. They went to prepare how to represent themselves. And people used to present some serious project, because some of this project is like the one that's been developed over time about health management system. I think maybe some of your colleagues or classmates It has started for a long, long time
Yeah.
because it's well funded and also it's a problem that exists in the
exists, for
health
sure.
sector. So maybe, please, remind me if I forget about that. We should organize something, if not 2023, 2024. Yeah.
That's actually amazing.
But go ahead.
Where was I?
You're explaining to us what CES is.
Oh, CES is. So, yeah, I think that's just an introduction to who CES is. So, there's usually a tech week, dedicated week just for projects. There's also a hackathon, right? Breakouts for different
Different tracks.
industries and different tracks, the likes. So, I remember this morning, I went to CES week. At the time, I was still commuting and I was not involved in community at all. I think it was actually my second meeting. So, sorry. So, I got to CES in the morning and they haven't started and had a class. I decided, let me just go to class. I leave class and I said, let me pass by. I was going home. Let me just pass by. 5 minutes max. And then shock. So I walk in and I remember there was this Japanese guy was talking. He's very, very silent.
He's talking, but he's silent.
He's very, he talks and he's very silent. Okay.
So when he talks, he talks. Okay, how does it work?
I have no idea what example to give you, but he talks, but you can still feel him silent even when he's talking. He's very...
So he doesn't talk loud?
No, actually.
But neither does he talk...
Very composed, very serene, very flatline, just,
I see that picture.
Yeah.
That those people who are flat-toned.
I don't even think it's flat-toned.
No?
It's just...
The level of
ambiance.
composure is extreme. It's just very...
Yeah.
Okay, I would love to meet him.
You should. So I remember I was struggling to hear him, but I could see he was doing a presentation and I could see a rocket. And I was like, 5 minutes turns into 10 minutes. I can stay for this one. And then a very tall gentleman stands and is introduced to be a student.
Allah?
And he's the one who's leading this project. And he talks so passionately about the kind of things they're building with rockets. 10 minutes ended up being him and the entire presentation. And I remember I was at the door. So I told myself, I'm not going to let this opportunity pass me by. So as they were leaving, I just dashed out. Hi, how are you? My name is Junn Hope, and I would like to join the program. Thanks.
Yeah. So were they like pitching for people to join?
They were. So what happened? It was an introduction or basically a presentation of Nakuja and what the kind of work they were doing. So the Japanese man was our supervisor, Dr. Shoya Aoki, and the young gentleman was Washington Kimathi, who was our leader, was the leader of Nakuja at the time. So
what is Nakuja?
Okay.
You know Nakuja in Swahili means I'm coming.
I'm coming.
Yeah.
Which makes sense if you think about it. Because
But
that rocket will go and come back. So it will come back.
Do they have that in mind when they are saying Nakuja? Or
I generally
it's a
wish I
Japanese-
knew, but it's not a Japanese.
It's a Swahili.
It is a Swahili. It is
Okay.
a Swahili word because there's also a country project that's Jebet for electric vehicles. So yeah, we would like to meet the people who gave them these names. We really would.
Incredibly creative, yeah.
They were.
Is it creative?
It's just...
Think about it.
How it
Jebet makes you carry yourself, right? Because it's an electric
very
vehicle.
straightforward. It's so ingenious.
The rocket.
It's genius.
Exactly.
So Jebet is also happening at JKUAT.
Yes.
Okay. Is it working or?
Yes,
just-
it is.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah. I love how you guys are in harmony on this
Because it's
and
true.
passionately.
We've seen it
Taifa
working.
laptop.
We've seen
In the project.
Taifa laptop.
They work.
But I heard you guys are doing assembling.
We do
which,
assembly.
Which I had an issue with because I believe you guys could be able to collaborate with Dedan with the capacitor. building
Oh yeah,
and that.
true.
I'm also a believer of collaboration because working in silos mostly delivers.
Help.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
But anyway, so Nakuja is a project around rockets that can actually land themselves.
Yes. For now, it's we're we're building, they're called amateur rockets. So they're not the SpaceX level kind of rocketry.
Sophisticated, yeah.
Yeah. And rocketry is like stacked. So there's model rockets and there's amateur rockets, and then now we go into more commercial and large scale rocketry. So we're basically an amateur rocketry group. We build rockets from scratch. That is inclusive of the propellant, which is very interesting. If you did chemistry, if you like mixing things up and seeing things burn.
Please. I said we are grade 2.
Sorry.
Now, when you talk about chemistry, and this is chemicals, right?
Yes.
And now they react
with each other
to create some propulsion, right?
Yeah.
How is this? What is this mixed together? And because the earliest I think people get engaged with chemistry is when they take the matchstick, they load it on the wire that is on a bike. I don't know what to call that wire. You know, the wire that holds the rim from collapsing.
Yeah.
The
the best
spool. Is this
explanation.
called a spool? The two wires. that
Spoke.
the
Spoke. Yeah.
Yes.
The spoke. That's the right one. So there's a way we used to carve it as young boys. Then use a nail and a thread. And then we put the powder. The matchstick powder, which actually lights the matchstick. And then we place the nail on top of that. And then we hit it against a stone or something, and then it produces like a pop sound, like a bullet. And I think still boys do that, or I don't know if it's boys or girls.
I've actually never even heard of that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it still happens because during sorry, say that again.
This is something I'll be trying soon. I'm taking.
No, absolutely, it's fun, but also you might get into trouble. So I see most people try it during Christmas or New Year because there's so much
Fireworks and the likes.
happening, which produces out, so you not disturb
You
the
can
peace.
join in the fun.
So before the firework, especially in Mombasa, something happening, but you're not seeing the fireworks. That's why I'm assuming, these are boys being boys or girls. These are kind of, even maybe
Girls
girls are
being
doing
girls.
it. But given it's late at night, I highly doubt girls are doing that. But you never know. It's a changed world.
Yeah.
So that's the closest, I think, earliest age. And then when you understand chemistry and you see potassium react with what? What triggers potassium? What is our
Water.
chemist?
Was it water?
Chemist is right
Remember,
there.
there's this like we
What
have a chemistry
triggers-
engineer.
Yeah, we have a
Why is he
proper
not here?
chemical engineer.
Yeah.
Oliver should tell us because we have 4 mics and
I remember potassium used to dart around the surface of water with a pop sound. I remember. Is that
is highly reactive with water.
with water?
So when you think about all these things are fun, like in the core of it, they're really, really fun. So
True.
when I hear you talk about propulsion now, even me, I'm interested in rocket science. So I also think science should be fun.
They should.
And I know it requires resources for sure, but it should be fun enough that this reminds also me something very interesting that I did after university. So I used to run C4D, Computing for Development, and there was this startup called Funky Sci. And we met them at the Innovate Nairobi. They were one of the presenters. I didn't get to interact with them, but it started back in the day, I think 2014. And what they were trying to do is make science fun to kids, so they could go do an experiment. Of course, parents pay some fee, and that I think also like brought children close to science and like it from the fun side of things. Because science mostly is presented as this hard thing that even you don't even understand why you need to learn some of this. But now you've talked about propulsion. So what happens in that propulsion? Because most of us, even scientists like us, we see Starlink launch some rocket and then there's a lot of fire and then it cuts.
True.
It's what do you
Cut
call
off.
that? It's cut off. Then something else happens and to some extent there is no fire. So that fire is where the chemical reaction is happening. So what actually happens around there?
Mostly what will happen is you'll have a lot of kinetic energy. You have like a lot of buildup of energy. And the best thing about energy is that it's able to propagate itself for a long time. And so that's why you find that once, for instance, in this more commercial rocket, you'll have it burn for a while, ignite out the fire. Mostly it's usually liquid hydrogen. And then have that energy propel itself for a while, so that when you're able to cut it off at around 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 kilometers, it's still able to continuously propel itself. So for us, being that we don't go to such high distances, we basically just build very small, not very small, but just small enough, compact propellant, basically cooking potassium sorbitol. It's called KNSB. Potassium nitrate sorbitol.
So potassium and what was this second one? I can
sorbitol. Sorbitol is a chemical.
Is a chemical by itself. Okay.
Yes. And so cooking it and just mixing it together, it's very. We should actually share these videos of how people actually cook.
Yes.
I will. Of just making and then now compacting it. So just placing it into very tight packets. So if you have seen. There's these things we used to play with when we were kids that used to light up like fireworks. Not fair.
Which one?
They even bought they're usually red, the very red things with a thread, and then you just light it up and it's Baruti, yes. Baruti, yes. So
you guys are so bougie. You used to buy those things to just play with them, or you made them?
You used to make them.
Oh, you used to make them?
No, me, I never used to.
No, me, anything I played with, I used to make it.
For real?
Yeah, except Banta. You don't know if you know Banta.
Bano.
Yeah, Bano. Yeah.
That's so interesting. I used to buy them for like.
We used even to make. I'm sharing too much. We used to make even wire cars model. Like you would see, Nissan Sunny was a big deal then.
Yeah.
Until nowadays, you have a Nissan Sunny.
Build an OD.
But in Nissan Sunny, we could see it. You know how they pimp it to have even some nice sporty looking, and then Safari Rally was big. So you could see some nice model and then make them and then sell them to other kids. Like when you're driving it, a kid, a bougie kid sees that car or that wire, whatever. They used to use they're called what? Wire mesh.
Oh yeah, yes.
So when they cry for it, the parent has to buy it and like, how much is this? Give us like 500, and then 500 was really good money, and then you make another one, right? So those are some of the things that you used to make. I have a brother who is a proper engineer, because even he started making radios when he was, I don't know, class 6 or 7, but unfortunately he didn't like pursue it as a career. He could really make a really good electrical engineer. But for me, I was a guy who used to be made things, and I was the luckiest guy growing.
You're the one who was selling them now.
Me, I was more of a silent kid. I was a last born, so
okay.
You can imagine. So, of course, everything was done for me.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, but I could do it if I wanted to. So, I think you can see what is happening here. But I used to see this actually happen in real time. And I was so fascinated, like how could you be able even to think and shape those wires to really form right angles? This one will go this one and then tie it using the tube. They got the bladders from the bicycle tube or car tubes. So they tie the black ones.
Okay.
Actually, some of them were like brownish. So they could actually make different colors of those cars because they could tie all the wires using those bladders, and their car could really look neat. Some of them were as strong as carrying a kilogram of sugar and you're driving it.
Some ingenuity right there.
It was crazy. Like, that's why I believe Africans, again, if we really harness in this ingenuity, we could not be buying cars anywhere. We could actually be making our own model of cars and anything else. But at the end of the day, we'll get there. I'm so sure about it. So, when we talk about this, like, did you make these things? But anyway, I understand why you could buy it.
At the time, I did not know where my life would take me. So basically, just pack them up, then fire them out. So as you fire it out, it produces actually fire and also a lot of energy as it combusts. So that energy is what propels it.
So how far do you propel those rockets?
We have iterations. So for each iteration, we have a different goal. So the first one was 50 meters. We got to 32 meters. The second one was a target goal of 500 meters. We got to over 200 meters. And then now we're at 2 kilometers. targets of 2 kilometers.
Now the target is 2 kilometers.
The current iteration now is 2 kilometers.
So let me ask this.
Yes.
So when you target this, do you do the calculation of the mix-up? How long it will take to burn?
Yeah.
And how do you go about this? Do you like burn it and see how far it will burn? Do you create an environment that this chemical will burn? Because different environments will burn this
differently.
Yeah.
For sure. So the best thing about all this is that space has become democratized. So there's a lot of information out there, right? So that's usually the first step. So there are equations that have been made publicly available. There are data sets that have been made publicly available. So
by
we don't...
SpaceX or everyone?
By SpaceX, by Richard Naka, by us, for instance. Nakuj is also open source. So you want to build a rocket, you can just follow a documentation, build your own iteration of a rocket, right? So there's so many other organizations, both student and open source, and rather commercial organizations that have made this open source. So basically, using data sets, you're able to learn, and using equations, you're also then able to predict what you want and what you need to get to what you want, right? Yeah. So the first step of everything is usually sitting down, going back to your equations, going back to your chemistry, going back to your physics, going back to your mechanical, because again there's also a lot of mechanics that comes into play. So going back into the nitty-gritty of all that. Then from there you're able to say, so we wanted to get to 50 meters, so how much of potassium do we need, how much of sorbitol do we need to be able to propel, and for how long do we need to burn it for us to get to 50 meters? How long do we need to burn it for us to get to 2 kilometers? How big do we need it for it to burn to 2 kilometers? Again, there's also now and I think this comes into questions of systems engineering, because there's also a concern of weight, because you don't want it to be very heavy, because then otherwise you'll reduce your target. It's called an apogee, the maximum height you want to get to. You'll reduce your apogee if your rocket is if it's too heavy, right? If it's too light, then it might not burn it might actually even burn up. So there's like so many intricacies that we now want to look into.
Have you ever carried someone in that rocket?
No. You can't even fit your hand. You can't even fit your hand in it.
I'm just thinking out loud, then it doesn't come back. Has any of those come back landed safely?
Safely,
it's a relative.
we're working on it. We're working on it. Safety is very, very important, but unfortunately, we haven't ever been able to deploy parachutes, because ideally we would want to have parachutes. So for all our iterations, we haven't been successful in deploying parachutes. But this current iteration, we are very, very hopeful, because we have done a little bit more tests, we have done a little bit more simulations and more live testing, the likes. So we're actually very excited to launch, because we want to see whether it works.
Oh, nice. I believe Elon Musk, if you're listening, there's a girl who can use expertise around here. But also Elon Musk believes that if they have done something, they should open source it, and I think most of it is open source, and they have done all these things actually successfully. You guys, do you use some of that knowledge, or?
We do, but contextually.
Okay.
Understand that they're having very big rockets, and the propellant they're using right now is actually liquid propellant, not solid propellant. So for us, you can either have it as liquid or solid, right?
Oh, so your packets are solid?
Solid,
and
yes.
you ignite them and then something else. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So you can either have your propellant to be either solid or liquid.
So liquid is more complex because you have to release it.
Yeah, there's with pressure, with compression. You're looking at things like nulls, So it's a
but
little
is it more
bit more
efficient?
Complex. It is more efficient, especially the further up you go, or like the further higher you go, it is more efficient.
Okay.
So ideally, currently I will get to that. So with SpaceX, some of their data, most of their data is actually open source, but we use it contextually, what works for us.
Yeah.
So, for instance, things like the avionics systems do work for us, right? Because we'll see that the kind of data that they're collecting here is also the kind of data that we need.
Yeah.
So, for avionics systems, we can use that. But for propulsion, then comes a bit of a concern. With airframe, also comes a bit of a concern because you're using very small rockets.
Yeah.
But we do use data. So currently, we have this. Okay, we're funded by JKUAT. And for final year, you can actually do your as a final year project. So I have a friend of mine whom two groups actually are working on building a liquid engine for future uses.
Yeah.
So they're actually in touch and in conversation with some SpaceX engineers so that they're able to. They actually, I think, have meetings almost on a weekly basis just to share information or like to also
should
understand.
be building these things.
Sorry?
You should be building these things.
Yes, we should.
You should. Yeah.
Okay, my interest is not in liquid propulsion. It's not in propulsion. It's in the avionics system, in the computer, in the brain.
Computing.
Yes,
Okay.
in the computing time.
Yeah,
So again, there's so many. There are nuances even in that rocketry system. So for instance, for us, we have a propulsion team, so both solid and liquid. We have an airframe team, so the basic framework, how the body looks like, how the fins will be placed, how it will look like. What material to be used, and then there's also now the computing and the brain behind it. What kind of data are we going to be collecting? For how long? How are we going to be deploying our parachute? So for me, that's now where my interests lie.
Yeah. And how is that working out?
Very fun, very very fun.
Yeah.
I like failing.
But I understand also with the rocket the margin should be really thin.
Yes.
or zero.
Yes.
Of course, zero is impossible, but it should be really, really thin because you can imagine if I wanted a rocket to land in Kisumu and then it lands in Kampala.
That's a big problem.
So many issues that even they can cause war. Actually,
for
if
sure,
you think about it. If someone was in that rocket, maybe like Junn, well educated, charismatic, then they burst into flame out there. That's a life lost.
Yeah.
Or we send you to the moon and then we can't bring you back. Because now the software.
It'd actually be a good, interesting movie.
Yeah. And there's so many things that actually, when you think about them practically, you see why error is not allowed.
True.
Or maybe it should be minimal. Have you ever thought of becoming an astronaut?
At one point I did.
Yeah.
But I think I like being on grounded earth more. I like to feel the ground, the sand.
But there's
the
ground
feel
in the
of,
moon and the Mars.
Yeah.
Now that Elon is taking
if you do get there, I'm not saying we won't, but I'm not very incentivized to want to become an astronaut for now.
Yeah.
For now.
Yes, let it be said.
You're
For now,
working
I want to build systems that go to Mars.
But you remain
One
here.
day, I feel like I'd want to let the first iteration of guys go to Mars.
See how that goes.
Just, it's just...
You don't want to be the test subject.
I can't. I'm a baby girl.
Yeah.
I'm children. I will die.
We're not taking you to Mars. But one thing I've seen with Elon is that for sure he is going to Mars.
Oh yeah, for sure.
When he talked about landing back the space, back I think in before even 2010, I can't be sure when, everyone thought he's mad.
I know.
NASA actually was the government was suing him for even thinking. But look at it right now. When he said he'll change the way people access internet, people thought he's joking. Yes.
Look how
He talked about changing social media. People thought, that's another joke. Twitter. You changed Twitter. He did. Okay, it's debatable, but you can see a lot of things. And that's a drive that I feel like most Africans have. Elon is African. Let no one tell you otherwise. If he's not, maybe he has drunk African water. I hear, but there's power in water.
There is power in the water.
Yeah.
There is power in the water.
Someone who is more knowledgeable than I am, not from school though. They told me actually people speak the way they speak because of the water they drink.
You serious?
Yeah. To some extent, by the way, you see how you're thinking about it for a minute.
Let me ask. So then, if I go take water in Kisii or in Mombasa, I'll speak different.
Not immediately, but over time. You've never noticed if you go to... It's debatable though, so don't think discuss on this.
Okay.
But have you ever noticed when you go to Mombasa, for some reason your accent changes?
I think it's actually ingrained in us for your accent to change. Ever had someone come back from India with an Indian accent?
To some extent.
To some extent?
Yeah.
To the huge extent that
And
people
also,
do go to Mombasa for 2 days and come back with an
It
accent.
can be debated this way. Don't look at the underlying factors like, I want to speak like Costello. No. Look at it this way. Already you have the accent that you acquired over time, right? So of course we're not expecting you the next
change
day.
overnight.
These are Swahili or these are US or these are an English, whatever. But look even the way even here in Kenya, how our dialect, you can have a Kale who speaks a little bit different, you can have a Kikuyu who speaks a bit kidogo. But when you see this, they're divided by the rivers, the way the rivers flows. Just think about for a minute. At first I was like, these stories are Jabba.
I see that.
But it's just out there. Just think about it. And when I thought about it, by the way, it made a lot of sense. To some extent.
It does, but I'm not quite sure if it's the water though, but it does.
That's why I said it's debatable. So,
because for instance, I'm Kikuyu, you're Kikuyu, right?
I'm not a Kikuyu, but yeah.
Okay.
I'm a Bantu.
You're a Bantu. All right, I'll give you an example of Kikuyu. That you'll hear someone speak with a Nyeri accent, and you'll be like, that's a Nyeri person. And then in Kiambu and Murang'a, especially amongst themselves, you're able to hear the nuances.
And most of those regions are separated by the rivers.
That's what I'm saying. It makes sense. It makes sense, but
It's just the region. The river just falls in the region.
You look at people who are living
No, I mean, someone
upstream.
can say people interact even in those regions, but it doesn't change how they speak.
They speak, sure.
Yeah, of course. As I said, it's
Sylvia is not
debatable,
buying it.
but if
She's not buying
and
it.
the reason why even I gave it a thought is because there's this research that we do over time, and it tells us this is the way.
Yeah.
And when you investigate further, you find, by the way, this is
It
the way.
is.
So even this one is it's just something I'm throwing out there for Africans, especially because you see, even for us, we don't even pay attention to our dialect.
Yeah.
Have you ever realized that? Like we speak the way we speak. So what? But we are trying to learn the Indian accent, the English accent, the US accent, the Japanese accent. And for them, actually, they have gone ahead to document all these dialects and variations. Like even when you go to Chinese, they have, people think just Chinese is Chinese. Chinese has several variations,
Sure.
Mandarin, I don't know what. And there's the standardization of these to make sense. And this is where now this becomes even more interesting. I don't know which app I'm using from China, and I changed it to Chinese. So
Wait,
Can't
what?
read.
You it's a
I
Chinese-based
selected
app that was in English.
Yes, amongst the language, I said, why can't I select Chinese?
Oh, wow.
Okay, I was trying to enable something, and I read somewhere, if you change it to Chinese, automatically you'll find this feature enabled.
How is that coming for you? How is that coming along?
It's a good story. Now, changing back,
You don't know where the language
I was almost learning Mandarin. And I realized some of these things I'm looking for, they're not written the same, but to
Yeah.
someone who doesn't know, it looks the same.
The same.
Yeah.
And also, when I thought about it, about how you pronounce English,
Yeah.
right? We don't even pay so much attention to that even when you're learning English, by the way. It's not even a subject that you sit down and learn, but maybe the CBC is teaching that. So I realized something can be written differently to be pronounced differently. And that's what actually helped me. Because I was looking for something specific, whereas different. And I was able to change back to English. Because I thought, okay, this settings is written this way, language is written this way, and then you go to this, and then now you can select. Because while under languages, you're able to see English or Espanol or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was
Was
a
something.
very good night. It was at night, actually, and it's good that you break things at night if you're a scientist or anything to do.
Had it
with
from him.
Yeah, so I don't know why he shared all that, but the languages, to some extent goes to that extent. Why do you go to the languages? But anyway, so besides the propulsion, which you're not interested in deeply, but also it comes down to computing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So you want to focus with software.
Yes, hardware and software.
We're talking about margin of error.
Oh, yes.
So this is not just another software you write. You have to write it the right way. So how has that been for you?
I think the best thing for us, especially, is how iterative engineering is. So before we launch, there's a whole task line and a whole workload and a whole process that you need to have done. And it's a lot of tests. I'm pretty sure, Sylvia, you had friends who are always talking about, I'm going for a test, I'm going for a test, I'm going for a test. You're not going to actually launch the rocket, but you're just going to check, is where I am better than where I was yesterday? Is my code working better than how it was yesterday? Is my body better than how it was yesterday? Is my propulsion system better than how it was yesterday? So it's very iterative, and that provides a very good wiggle room for correcting our failures and learning as we go. So tomorrow, the kind of problems you experience today are not the problems you'll experience tomorrow, right? And documenting it as we go. So you'll find that the problems that the people who are in Nakuja, we call the batches N1, N2, N3. So the people who had the issues that the N1 team faced is not the issues that N2 team faces, because we're documenting it as we go, and we're also saying, here's why I failed, so don't do this. So don't do this, don't follow this, follow this other way, right? And now N3 comes along and we document this, and we say, this is what we've been able to do, this is what we're doing, this is what we have failed at, so help us. But also at the same time, for N4, don't do the same thing. So it's very iterative and very back and forth. So ideally, by the time you're going for a launch, you're almost certain that your margin of error has reduced significantly. But also you can't take away the fact that whatever can go wrong will go wrong. But we try reduce the number of wrongs.
Murphy's Law.
Yes, Murphy's Law, for sure.
Okay. So, given this is the issue, which language do you guys use?
Mostly C, C++, Python.
You guys use Python?
MicroPython from time to time.
There's a reason why I'm laughing.
Why are you laughing?
Python is crazy, especially at scale. In terms of error, actually, reduction. And that's what's good with data, because the data allows you to do a lot of crazy stuff with errors and still works, because that's essentially what you're measuring in data is the margin of error. So you're expecting it. But it's fascinating you guys use C and C++, because the way C is designed, it's either 0 or 1, which makes it really good. C++, why C++ though?
Again, most of it you'll realize is you build for the hardware you are going to be using. So you'll find that the hardware you're using is compatible with probably C or C++. So then it becomes easier than to build up of that. Yeah.
And there's a huge opportunity in rocket science.
For sure.
Yeah. I was checking Starlink the other day.
Right?
It's just that they're hiring in US. I wish they were hiring in Africa. No, that one you can. Elon was very straightforward. You can't do remote. He's the first guy who said people should get back to the office or get another job. And it's good to be straightforward, because how do you develop a rocket in your house or build a software and then send, and if there is error? This is not where you just say, you know what, next week's sprint.
And I think it's because there's a lot of and even if you watch some of the NNEs, some of the launches, it's usually now they have learned the art of building fast. Before, it used to take time because they used to keep on failing and have to go back to the drawing board. And it becomes very difficult to do that when you're doing it remotely, because they'll send you a whole rocket.
Musk
Tinker with that. Exactly.
Musk himself used to spend hours and hours in the garage, not even in the office, in the garage, especially with Tesla. Now imagine rockets. So it was very clear that, especially started with his executives. And Atlassian, which is work from wherever. Like, but of course I see where he's coming from. Because everything starts from the leadership. And I'm not saying actually working remotely is totally bad, but there's some things actually, if you really want true results and get them efficiently, you have to be physically there. Not the office.
Physically
on
site.
Yeah, on site. You see, when you see the office, there's this analogy, office, desk,
seated desk.
like Sterling, most of their offices are workshops.
Exactly it. Workshop is your office.
And something about Elon, by the way, I don't know if you
office.
have checked this. He has tried to roboticize everything. Because you see, robot, they can work 24 hours,
For sure.
7 days a week, 365 days, and they're reliable. As long as your code really
Programmed
works.
it well.
That's true.
But of course, he realized that is not sustainable. He went to China and Vietnam to open. Maybe we should talk more about Elon next time.
We should. I think I really like the way he looks. He's very radical in his thoughts. He's very
But
radical.
smart.
Exactly. It's very stretches the like your fabric of thought. It's like, what's the worst?
Do you think marijuana contributes to that?
Oh,
Now that you come from Jamaica?
now that I come from JKUAT,
No,
Have
to
it on
Jamaica.
Judah,
Should say, we'll have it on record.
you have it on record. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I like to say, if I don't have a frame of reference, then I can't answer a question. So I don't have a frame of reference.
It's because there is also this controversy. You can say not to
Let's
answer
hear
the
it.
way you have not. Why the Judah engineers are really good is because of the availability of, is it cannabis? What?
Sativa.
It's sativa. Marijuana is cannabis sativa.
Yeah.
The availability, the quality, and the affordability. That's why it's called Jamaica. And of course, even Elon has smoked live. See, like for him, it's like, okay, don't do it, but
If you do it, it's not all bad. But don't do it.
he has done that severally, and he has really given some crazy points when he does that. So like, okay. But also, I would not advise anyone to use any kind of drug for that matter, especially if you're not sure how to work for you. But also, I'm changing that a bit because we have seen it getting legalized, and not ever, when we were growing up, we're like, if you smoke this thing, you'll go mad. But you're not seeing the whole US go mad. But it's debatable.
I don't
Maybe
think
US
the
is already
United
mad.
States is the best frame of reference. It's not.
But it has always been
standard.
there's always been legal in Netherlands.
It has.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's the first country I traveled to, and those they call coffee shops. Yeah, you go and buy your thing, either edible or otherwise. You have some good time. Yeah.
Wow.
Like one of the biggest tourists is the people who come over the weekend just to have a good time.
Just chill.
It's one of the
Tourist attraction.
countries
Oh,
where
Lord.
they have legalized that amongst the
Others.
Europe members. So when you think about it, it's like, should I? By the way, guys, don't use it if you don't have to. Yeah, you are good the way you are, Yeah, but someone else brought another debate around that. Tea is also a drug.
For sure.
Coffee is a drug.
100%.
Depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything overused, of course, it will cause problem, including ugali and skuma wiki. That is relative.
Yeah.
So, parting shot, June. Or let's start even with Sylvia.
Yes.
Parting shot for our audience.
So, parting shots. I love this new generation in the tech space.
Yeah.
I love the steps and the strides and the mindset change that is coming about, which is very evident even in your story. How you're seeing people do things. If I was to tell my parents that, in my school, we're building rockets, they'd be confused. You're not in JKUAT? They'd be, what's going on?
Yeah.
And this is the change that we love to see. I have many friends who've been in Nakuja, so I've seen you guys really put in the work and do the tests in the field and then
Fail.
and record. And that's the progress, so love to see it. Yeah, your journey is very interesting. Yeah, and I'm sure someone seated somewhere is thinking about how do I go about this? I'm here. Is there someone who's gone through this journey? And hopefully that person will get to see it and realize that they can do a lot,
Yeah,
so I
for
love to
sure.
sit. Parting shot, what is my main takeaway? I love the mindset shift, so I will take that with me. Look at things with that perspective.
All right. I'm supposed to go?
Yeah.
Yes, please, Junn.
Okay. Parting shot. Let me start with how, before I even start a parting shot, it's probably going to be a story
Okay.
and motivation to all of us.
Okay.
I met MK through community. And it was actually one of my biggest communities that I've joined besides university. And then that also led way into other communities. And if there's anything that I will underscore is build in public. Build in public, learn in public. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to look like a failure. Because I think those are two different things. Don't feel as though you can't trust someone else with your dream or your visions or your people are out, especially in this tech space. And what you're saying about mindsets is it's very important because people were now looking at things differently, now looking at life differently and realizing we don't have to build in a silo. I don't have to build in a vacuum. I don't have to learn in a vacuum. I don't have to experience life in a vacuum. Talk about it, right? Talk about the projects you're working on. It might seem silly to you, but it really isn't. It's a starting point to something else, right? Talk about the kind of failures you're going through because it's out of that someone else comes and shows you the way, right? If for instance, let's even assume you're all programmers, right? Let's imagine we didn't have documentation because that's one good example of community. Let's just imagine we didn't have documentation or didn't have Stack Overflow. Yeah, think about that one, you know? So don't be afraid to talk about the kind of problems you're experiencing because it paves way for providing answers. And if you have an answer, don't sit with it.
Sure.
Write papers, write articles, speak in public, go to conference talks, write books if you may, because the only way we're able to tell our stories is if we actually let them out. The only way you're able to help someone is if you actually provide that helping hand. So on the one hand, don't be afraid to ask. And on the other hand, don't be afraid to provide answers. So yeah, it has been an interesting one. I really liked it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
By the way, talking about sharing,
Yes.
you'll be presenting at Africa's Talking Summit 2023.
I did not think you saw that. Yes, I will.
Yeah. And
I will.
I like when people give me that.
What?
Like, okay. It's kind of fascinating myself, but I'm the guy who you not think. I normally tell people don't follow me, I'm lost, but
You act like the underdog.
I'm an underdog.
Okay.
So I'll give an African proverb.
Okay.
From Ethiopia.
Okay.
And I learned this and I'll have to give credit from Spice FM in the morning.
Okay.
From CT. The other one is? The CT and who else? You don't listen to this? Okay. So one of the radios actually that is changing the conversation.
It is.
And by the way, if they are listening to me, please bring all politicians. We want to hear from innovators, everyone. And that's one thing I like. You listen to it, right?
Yeah.
And it's some sober conversation. But they give proverbs and I thought, why not? But the proverbs are good. They present you as a wise person. No, they give wisdom. So here is a proverb from Ethiopia.
All right.
It says, what is inflated too much will burst into fragments. And I feel like it relates to what we are talking about, rockets. And it says this is the explanation.
Okay.
But maybe in future you should be asking our guests like how these guys, that's what they do. They give up, and they like, what do you think that proverb is? And then they give them in. But for me, I'll be easy. So, one who thinks very highly of oneself is said to have a big head. You have ever heard of that?
Yeah.
If you let your ego grow and you boost all the time, eventually you'll not be able to live up to it. Your ego will shatter in a sense. The same is true for substances. As a substance eats up, or we cook it, the particles vibrate faster and expand. If the particles are contained, they will exert more and more pressure. rocket scientists, manenos, on the substance containing them, and the container may eventually burst.
Sure.
That's a very good proverb. Though when I think about it, I feel like a rocket scientist. But anyway.
Chemical engineer in the house.
My part is in the house. So my parting shot will be very easy. And I normally say this, I normally tell this to myself. With 1 billion people across Africa, and when you think about that, 70% of those, which is around, and actually it's more actually right now, is more than 800 million people, youth, which is 35 and below, even younger, because they called what? The mean age is around 19 now.
19.
Yeah.
19, yeah.
It shows two things. One is either we perish all of us or we make it all of us. And I believe in making all of us, making it all of us, because for me, it's a matter of if you have an opportunity, you have a skill, why not share that skill?
For sure.
It's better off when everyone has access to that as opposed to just one. Like we should have so many point of failures as opposed to one. And I think any engineering you go to, that's one thing that you're taught to create. Many point of failures. So that by the time the last point of failure is failing, the first one is
has
fixed.
kicked back in.
So anyone in Africa, don't give up. Don't feel like, I was born in Karamanjong or Karamoja, and this is it. There's so much out there, and it doesn't matter where you are across the African continent. It's a matter of you having that self-drive.
For sure.
Yeah, because you have seen the most unlikely engineers from northern Nigeria, where there's been Boko Haram for the longest, and they're spreading this thing across Nigeria. We have seen the best engineer come from Egypt, which actually relies on Nile, and amongst many other things. So it can be done, it should be done, and we will do it.
We will do it for sure.
And thank you so much, Junn, for honoring our show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
It was really
And
nice.
for our listeners, this is where we come to an end. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment. And if you like Junn to be our guest again, please let us know. Junn is just starting this, by the way, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
No voting.
Making it as a
just
joke.
comment. But ideally, we just host movers and shakers, guys who are doing big things around tech ecosystem across Africa, telling their stories the way they are, keeping it real, and of course, learning from each other. I hope you have enjoyed. Until next time, see you. Yaani watu wamesikiza hapa ni kama boats. Unakaa wachinku sijui